Good day and welcome to, I don't know, I guess like a new type of video. Basically I'm doing a Pokemon Nuzlocke, and for those who don't know, Pokemon Nuzlocke is where you have a couple rules that dictate how you play a normal Pokemon game. So essentially you have to catch the first Pokemon you encounter in any route, and if Pokemon faints you cannot use them. You're supposed to release them, but I'm going to be putting them in the box so that we can see who we lose along the way. I'm also adding in a couple more rules that are optional. The first one being naming all your characters. Generally most people do this, but you're supposed to give every Pokemon a nickname. I'm also making this an only one type challenge, so all of our Pokemon have to have the water type, which means we can't even use Groudon or Groudon. I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah. That's basically it. Also, we'll be using the set battle style. Well, no, we won't. No, we're not. I didn't select, or did I? I can't remember. But basically, we're gonna give it a go. Now, Pokemon Ruby was actually a gift to me for my birthday, so I remember this game very fondly. It was really awesome, and I had a ton of fun playing it. So I am experienced with Pokemon games. It's not something that's unusual. But there's a couple of challenges that we'll be facing pretty nicely with this run. Firstly being getting a second Pokemon, because we can't really catch any water Pokemon outside of one or two very rare occasions until we get a fishing rod. So we have to be very strategic about this. But yeah, so we begin our journey into Pokemon Ruby. Now for those who don't know, you have to select your gender, of course. I go boy because I always kind of thought, firstly, I always thought the white hair was his actual hat. I mean, his hair, by the way, but it turns out it's a hat, which is pretty crazy. I named him Bazza because I've been watching a lot of Barry lately. For those who haven't seen that show, it's really good and really weird. So after creating Bazza, we begin our journey into the world of Pokemon Ruby. And the first crucial thing that we do is select or set our clock. Now, setting your clock is actually super important in the original game, because essentially setting your clock and setting your time on the clock was important for the growth of berries, which is why it was such an important factor. And it would use the internal mechanism on the Game Boy to determine the amount of time that's passed between playtimes, which would allow you to essentially manipulate how fast your berries grow. After that, our mom tries to play matchmaker and hook us up with May, and to my dismay, basically, at the time, I had a huge crush on May as a character. Just thought her style was really cute, and yeah, it was like a huge thing for me. Also, it was I think this is the first Pokemon game where you have two rivals. After trying to seduce May, after hanging out with May, she instructs us to go see the professor, and we end up essentially having to choose our first starter Pokemon to save him from this vicious Poochyena. Now, obviously, sticking to our water typing, we're going to stick with Mudkip. In future games, if, for example, we want to choose a typing that is the secondary typing of a Pokemon, so for example, Ground, you can obviously choose the starter that can at least obtain that typing. Because otherwise you're just limited to, grass, fire, and water, which is pretty cuck. Of course, according to the rules, we have to name Mudkip, and it is Kippy. Also, the best kind of nature for Pokemon does affect their stats, and Adamant or Jolly is the best nature for Mudkip. So of course we didn't get that, we got Rash. Pretty cool. After this time, because we only have one Pokemon, we did go on a little bit of a farming route, essentially trying our best to just kind of farm things up, gain some early levels. It's very easy to gain levels, and very important to get Water Gun, a very strong early game spike for good old Mudkip. So we started the farming process and immediately missed our very first attack, which kind of just spelt out essentially one of the failings that I would have with Kippy as a Pokemon. Just always missing attacks. We then had super fortunate luck and encountered a Wingull, and then I remembered I didn't have Pokeballs, which kind of made me incredibly sad, because this is one of the 3 opportunities we have to get, well, I think it's one of 2 opportunities we have to get a water Pokemon before we actually get a fishing rod. So with that opportunity completely wasted, I then almost committed sacrificing of Kippy to a Poochyena. Luckily, Kippy did not miss this attack, and after this I felt necessary to heal up before we took on May. Now May is pretty straightforward. Her Trico does not know any particular moves of substance at this point, only really Pound, so the level difference will keep us quite well covered. May essentially, for those who don't know, is always going to choose the opposing type to you, so it always causes a huge problem for your same type runs, because essentially your one rival will counter every single one of your Pokemon to a certain extent, which is great. So we make short work of Trico with pretty big ease, to be honest, and things go by pretty smoothly at this point. I think for us, things will go by pretty well. Mudkip generally is quite a strong starter in this generation, has some good type advantages, and the early gyms aren't such a big issue for us. After this time, we carry on heading over to Petalburg City, obviously to meet up with our dad, who apparently, for whatever reason, does not live near us and our mother, at least based on what I understand. So he's in Petalburg City. At this point, we obviously had to take out quite a few trainers along the way, which was fine. It was giving us a nice early EXP boost, but I actually forgot how many trainers there are in between these damn cities. I don't know if it was like this in the original Pokemon games, I can't really remember, but there are stages here where you are literally fighting like 4 or 5 trainers in one pathway between 2 cities, which is pretty cool. It's nice. I always enjoy the battling a lot. Once we get to Petalburg, we meet up with our dad, and he's immediately tasking us with helping out another child instead of spending time with us. So we go and help Wally catch a Pokemon. Now Wally, I think, is the whole triple rival or 3 trio type of thing, is a new mechanic, if I remember correctly. In Pokemon Ruby, it was the first generation to do this, and it's now become kind of like a staple with Pokemon, that you generally now have the whole 3 rival system. So you have like your original rival and kind of like a companion rival, or a friend and then a rival. I think this trend has continued ever since these games, and it's a good change. This always blew my mind as a kid, by the way, the reflection in the water. I had only really played Game Boy games, and seeing my reflection in the water was kind of like mind-blowing. We then traveled into the forest, not Viridian Forest, unfortunately. This is the worst named forest ever. I don't even remember its name. And we almost died to Shroomish. Shroomish is a absolutely terrible wild Pokemon for us to pick. All Shroomish above level 5 have Absorb, and that's a huge problem for us as basically, trainers of a Mudkip. While we are traveling through the forest, we come along our good friend from Devoncorp, and basically Devoncorp, Petalburg Woods, there we go. Devoncorp is like if Amazon was a benevolent company instead of being a corporate shill and horrendous, dictatorship. So Devoncorp is like this benevolent, super, ultra, mega corporation that creates all these fancy gizmos and devices. I think in Pokemon Emerald they actually give you a phone as well. The Devoncorp device is also a phone, I believe. I can't remember if that's in Ruby. I think that's just in Emerald. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. Obviously this is also the beginning of us fighting Team Magma Grunts, who always have a Poochyena, and we managed to take it out pretty easily. Once leaving Petalburg Woods, we go and pick up some berries and some other crucial items along the way. But mainly at this point we're just picking up trainers as we make our way to Rustboro City. We miss out on our first double duel because we only have 1 Pokemon. Double duels are going to be pretty crucial because one of the Nuzlocke rules is that you cannot use EXP share. So being able to do double duels and being able to challenge double duelists is going to be a very crucial way to accelerate some of our weaker Pokemon, whilst protecting them under the shadow of our stronger Pokemon. Once in Rustboro City, we immediately head over to this man who tells us that naming his Pokemon is absolutely pivotal towards his happiness, and that's why he named his Pikachu Pikachu, which, was crippling. Then we go across and find the TM cut. One thing I do appreciate about the older Pokemon is that sometimes you could just miss stuff. I remember not having cut the HM and just having no idea where to get it. Before we take on the gym, we do go and pick up Quick Claw. You can get it from the Pokemon school there, and Quick Claw is a great item, especially early game. allows you to essentially guarantee yourself the first attack, which in most situations, especially if you have a decently high-leveled singular Pokemon strat, is going to enable you to get that first blow, which you probably do need. Now this gym is not an issue. This gym was super duper simple. We have complete and utter type advantage the whole way through. As we take on this first fight, we also finally get our evolution for our Mudkip, and we become Marsh Stomp, and this gives us a huge power boost, as well as allowing us to learn Mudshot, which is a pretty good move. We replace Growl with Mudshot because we don't believe in debuffing the opposition, but also because we need more attacks, basically because right now we only have a normal, a ground, and a water, and Mudsnap's not the best ground-based ability for damage. So we pick up Mudshot and then head up and take on Roxanne. Now Roxanne, like any other Pokemon game, as the rock leader in the first gym, is basically a punching bag for everyone that comes through. I think the only Pokemon that doesn't have type advantage is Fire Pokemon, and if you learn fighting moves, then you end up having the advantage anyway. Obviously, with our powerful no longer Mudkip, we're basically able to clean things up pretty easy. Marsh Stomp, aka Kippy, absolutely cleaned everything up. Kippy did pretty well. Honestly speaking, some good attacks as well as the critical hits. I was getting pretty good. The only thing was the occasional absolute, crippling miss that would occur. But that's a trend that's been established since basically we got Kippy. But easily cleaning up this dungeon, super duper simple, dungeon, gym, and yeah, pretty much a super nice cleanup. So the first gym and the first badge, all without too many issues. The big thing so far is obviously understanding that essentially we are going to need to get a second Pokemon, and picking up that fishing rod is going to be crucial. So we need to be very careful about how we use that and which Pokemon we pick up with that. We can do in-game trades, but we can only trade for water-type Pokemon, so we need to keep an eye on that as well. But basically, guys, that's a pretty good run, I would say. Right now, we're looking pretty good, and yeah, that's basically going to be it from me. Let me know if you guys are looking forward, and if you want to add any rules into future runs or this one. I'll see you next time. Bye. Good day, and welcome back to another episode of the Pokemon Nuzlocke. Disclaimer, you will notice that our Mudkip is now a male, and also that they may have changed their nature. This happens sometimes, especially in cats. They will change their gender to accommodate what is supposed to occur to assist them with breeding, and yeah, basically I didn't save. So I had to redo everything. We're also one level higher, but I didn't capture any Pokemon. Tried to keep things as neutral as possible, and I left one of the potions in the PC, so yeah, consider that punishment. But we begin our journey immediately after finishing the first badge, and we're confronted with our eventually good friend from the Devon Corp, who requests us to aid him by stopping the local Team Magma Grunt from stealing a Devon Corp package. Now, no clue what is inside this package, at least at this time, and we track him all the way to the cave. Now, this cave is actually a shortcut between like two halves of the map, which you only really find out later. But yeah, we track him all the way back to the cave, and essentially we beat the crap out of him, and also save this man's, Wingo, Pico, probably the strangest name ever. But yeah, we basically instantly incinerate the good old Team Magma Grunt, claim the Wingo, and also obviously the Devon Corp package, save the day, and turns out the guy whose Wingo we saved is Captain Blarney. He's a captain, and he basically will give us a ride later on when we need to deliver the package. Also, I really dislike caves, and you're going to realize that a bit later on. When we get back, we get a Great Ball, which we still can't use because we have no ability to catch any water Pokemon, and we're asked to be introduced to Jeff Bezos. So basically we meet Jeff Bezos, hang out with him, he invites us to go to Epstein's Island, and instead we say no, we're not really into that, so we're rather going to go ahead and head off to Dewford and drop off his package with his son. Now, his son, Steven, is basically a big old geology nerd, but an incredibly attractive geology nerd. So, very interesting, of course. Like, kind of dynamic. When I first played this game, I did not realize that Steven was going to become the, end game Elite Four boss. One of the cool features, by the way, of Ruby, and eventually Emerald as well, that they never really brought back, and it's something I really loved, was the Pokemon Navigator. Just having like all the conditions and being able to see how many times you battled a certain trainer, or what kind of Pokemon they had. I think in Emerald you could phone them even and see if they're ready to battle. So yeah, anyway, we meet our future girlfriend / wife. On the way out, we head to Mr. Briny and partake in the hardest challenge in the game, which is intercepting him and this damn bird. When I was a kid, this was very irritating, and I never really understood why they did it until I realized you could actually just click A, like by standing next to him, and you would have done the same thing. But anyway, he gives us a ride to Dewford, and we set out in motion, and basically, travel all the way to Dewford, and finally can begin like the next step of our journey. Now, I found this really cool as a kid because it was kind of like a really rapid change in environment, like showing that there were all these kind of like islands and how big the kind of water sections of the Hoenn region were. And I think that was something really cool that I really enjoyed, because I like exploring the water sections. It just gives me this really cool vibe of exploration. But another big progress for us is that we actually obtain the Old Rod, which is crucial because it enables us to immediately go and catch some additional Pokemon. These Pokemon are going to be crucial because the worst case scenario, they're basically just going to be fodder for us to use to soak up some damage from our starter Pokemon. But no, it's important that we get these units and get some really nice Pokemon. I actually managed to snag a Tentacool, but slight issue. I went for a water gun, and turns out my Pokemon, good old Kippy, decided to crit. Clearly was not in the mood for a friend, so decided to immediately crit Tentacool, which was not great after waiting so long for a second Pokemon. Plus, I didn't realize, or at least when I was about to throw my fist through my computer screen, that actually we were fishing in Dewford Town. So if you look now, you can move from the exact spot we're fishing from Dewford Town to Route 107. Is this cheating? I don't know. But the point is we are in a different route, so we have the ability to catch the first Pokemon we see, which just so happens to also be a Tentacool. Except this time, instead of hitting it with an attack, we're going to just throw Pokeballs at it until we get it. The rate of difficulty of Pokemon is dependent on their health, but also their level. And usually, early on Pokemon, you can pretty much just catch with Pokeballs or Great Balls, just by literally slinging them at them. There's really not like much you need to do. You don't actually have to weaken them. So we catch Tentacool, and that's pretty cool. And we name him after the greatest player of all time in German football, Timo Werner. And after that, we decide, hey, you know what? We're going to politely walk from Dewford Town to Route 106. Again, people might misconstrue this and say that this is potentially cheating. I pose the question as to why they have 3 different routes, all in the space of 2 steps from each other. We find a Magikarp, which is actually really good. Although it's obviously a super common Pokemon, grabbing a Magikarp is actually really solid for us for 2 reasons. One, Magikarp obviously, as anyone who's played Pokemon knows, becomes Gyarados. And 2, Magikarp, as everyone knows, becomes Gyarados. So basically, the big thing with good old Marvin is that eventually he will become a Gyarados, and we should be able to use him quite well. Gyarados is a Dragon-type Pokemon. Obviously, for those who don't know, Steven the final Elite Four member is a Steel and Dragon type user. So, or sorry, the guy before him, Drake, is a Dragon type user. So it's very important that we have a Dragon Pokemon. We're also going to definitely need a Ice Pokemon, and obviously Gyarados is one of the few Dragon/Ice type Pokemon that exist. Now we go straight to the cave, which is a bit weird. Most people go to the gym first, obviously, to unlock Flash. We do not need Flash. We're going to use the powerful art of walking into all the walls until we eventually figure out where the hell we need to go. And the reason I do this, and the reason I did this as a kid, is basically it allows us to get some extra XP by leveling. So essentially we're able to work our way through the dungeon or cave and just kind of pick up a little bit more extra EXP, which is obviously great. But yeah, that's actually the only real logical reason I have for it. There's also an Everstone that we can pick up, which is kind of useful, but generally speaking it was just for the little tip of EXP that obviously helped us out. It also just made more sense to me as a kid, but yeah, that is what it is. So after like 40 minutes of stumbling around in the dark, well, not quite, but like after 20 minutes of stumbling around in the dark, eventually we find our way out. I hate caves. I really hate caves. It's just every time you think that you are going to finally just finish up in the cave, you just absolutely get rinsed by whatever random enemy decides to basically come for you. So it's very frustrating. But yeah, and there we go again, of course. But yeah, we meet Steven, and basically we hand him over the package, to which he gives us Steel Wing in return, which is a really helpful move that we actually might never be able to use. But Steven's pretty cool, so basically we give him the item, realize he's a bit of a Chad, and then essentially we're now able to leave the cave. There's no Pokemon in the cave we can catch. Obviously, well, we've defeated plenty of Pokemon, so there's not our first, but also there's no water types in there, so there was never anything to gain or lose. What we are going to do though is we're going to gain a couple levels on Teemo. It's not so important to have levels on Marv. We'll probably use Daycare for him, but the big thing is we need to level up Teemo. So cue the montage, of course, or the jump cuts of all of the battles that we'll be going through. Or like a super cut, I guess, of all the battles that we'll be going through. But yeah, basically I ran around the cave and just basically spawned battle after battle after battle. Almost died like twice as well, just for good measure. It's not really a run of a Nuzlocke if you don't lose your starter almost twice due to the power of Supersonic and Poison Sting. But yeah, basically we pretty much had a simple time, as you can see. My Pokemon almost died, which was excellent. Luckily, we do have some potions, which we consume. We'll probably have to stock up back on those later. But yeah, essentially, we farmed up a couple levels for Teemo. Realistically, we're aiming for around 5 levels. We need him to get a little bit of health in case we had to switch him in at some point into the gym. We needed him to soak up a hit or two, and by doing so, we need him to have a little bit of health. He also will be our pony. So Surf, Waterfall, all of these moves are going to definitely fall onto good old Teemo, unfortunately, but they're not bad moves, so it'll be more than fine, because Marsh Stomp, or Kippy, as the universe wants him to be known as, Kippy is going to be a lot more centric towards like the ground type moves and things like Ice Beam and that we need to kind of accommodate the other typings, because he's going to be a much higher level naturally. So yeah, but it was good to pick up some levels, especially for the double battles as well. You don't want him to also accidentally die in one hit, because there will be some double battles later. So at this point in time, it's pretty clutch to obviously have him kind of growing and just having enough health to really soak up those hits. Now, the gym was actually super easy. Basically, we were obviously quite over-leveled, but Mudshot is a very good ability here. Really solid damage against the fighting-type Pokemon. Dewey, he only has 2 Pokemon. He also has the most misleading avatar sprite I've ever seen, or the coloring on his actual sprite is very strange, because he goes from being like a grey-haired old man to being like a youthful blue-haired Trunks lookalike. It's a very weird experience. But anyway, Machop, very easy. Nothing too crazy. His Seismic Toss will do a bit of damage, but 2 moves and done. And the Makuhita is the same. Now, the only thing with Makuhita is we're going to go for Mud Slap for our first move. The reason being is Makuhita no sand attack. And if he gets 1 or 2 of those off, it actually can cause us a lot of problems, because we do actually have like Mud Shot is a lower accuracy move, and yeah, Tackle won't do a lot of damage to him. So we get the Mud Slap off, which is great, and then that in turn lets us essentially, have free reign to kind of knock him out. So very chilled dungeon. Obviously we are quite strong. I did have to contemplate Mud Sport because the next gym is a bit far away. It's actually quite a journey to the next one. But the next gym is an electric type gym, so it is going to be super important that we have that coverage for electricity, because we don't want to accidentally lose out. That's going to be a very hard hurdle for us, because obviously we'll be entirely reliant on the ground moves from Marshtomp. Fortunately, he has great proclivity to take out that gym with his overall strength, and by then he should be Swampert, so we should be good to go. But yeah, nice, clean, easy-ish run. Almost died twice leveling Teemo, but it's good that we have now 3 Pokemon. We'll definitely be dropping off good old Marvin with the daycare, but for now we're looking good. We also need a Pokemon that's a Patsy to teach Flash to, and I think Tentacruel is going to be eating up a lot of those HMs, which is one of the shames of obviously kind of like older Pokemon. You had to like have a pack mule that you used for all of your HMs. But yeah, that's it from me. See you guys in the next one. Till then, bye. Good day and welcome back to another Pokemon video. And yeah, this is obviously the next step in our journey in Pokemon Ruby. This one obviously starts with us leaving, obviously the good old island. We've just got our second badge, so we're feeling pretty good right now. The next section does pose a couple difficulties for us though. So firstly, there is a couple grass type Pokemon that are going to start slowly being introduced. Pokemon like Nuzlocke, Lombre, and also we have our second battle against May, which is kind of a big issue. So we need to prepare ourselves for that. Luckily, we were very fortunate last episode to actually get Tentacool, which is one of the better Pokemon we could have got off the Old Rod. And he's going to be a great tool for us to start leveling up and just using. He's not really going to solve our problem against May, but it's valuable to have a second Pokemon that can do attacks. So we arrive in Slateport, or near Slateport I should say, by the beach, and we clean up all the beach goers. Nice, easy, light work. None of these battles are really worth showcasing. Nice to just kind of get them all out the way, grab some levels for our Tentacool, kind of pushing him all the way up to like level 14, which is really cool by the end of the battle shack. So some nice good levels there, just easy fights to introduce him and introduce our Marshtomp into. We also managed to pick up another Pokemon, Magikarp, another one. I'm gonna probably stop using the Old Red at this point. It's not a lot, like your chances of grabbing something like an Azurill or something is just not great, so I'll probably just leave it. We get Marvin, or Martin, to go along with Marvin I should say, and we now got a dangerous duo, Marvin and Martin. We enter the battle shack and same here, just continue to clean up. Realistically speaking, this is the best opportunity to get some good EXP for our Tentacool, so I was pretty happy about that. And yeah, really awesome, I think, to just kind of get him some levels. It's really going to help us out later on, especially since, Tentacool's going to be, the Pokemon that we kind of teach Surf to. We're going to teach him quite a few moves to obviously kind of just help with saving some space on our Marshtomp. So we enter Slateport City, which by the way is a really cool city. I love the design of Slateport, just the whole vibe of it. We speak to this guy who's part of a cult that basically wants children to make secret bases. And we enter the Pokemon fan club. There's some really cool stuff around, the good old city. And I think it's really, really cool. Just in general, like how cool Slateport was. It was like the first town, I think, that really made me go like, wow, this is very different to the Gen 2 and Gen 1 games and everything. And like just the style was super different. The whole like having a Pokemon contest, having the ferry, having the port, having this cool little outside market area with different stalls, the berry blender, the nickname rater. There's just some really cool stuff in Slateport, and it was just one of those like really cool kind of moments in Pokemon games where I was kind of like, wow, this just feels like really awesome and really, really fun. Basically it was just like a really cool moment for me as a player, but of course, everyone has their moments in these games. So we heal up, and now we're going to kind of solve the mystery of the dock. It's not actually that big a mystery. Basically we have to drop the plans off with Captain Stern, but Captain Stern is not actually currently available. That guy gives us some great advice to not use one single type of Pokemon, but little does he know we're running a Nuzlocke, and he probably doesn't know what that is. So obviously Team Magma are blocking off the museum. To get inside the museum, you actually have to go and kind of part ways with the plans, or at least try to. You can't enter the contest yet because you can only do Hyper Rank, which is kind of crappy. It was a big old cock tease at this point. Not gonna lie, it was pretty bumming not being able to do like anything in terms of like just contests and that. It was always so bumming to me as a kid. I was like, what is this new game mode that they have, and just couldn't basically join in, and it was like very, very upsetting. I kind of tried to see if maybe we should fish here, but then I thought, you know what, actually I'm going to save it and rather come back with a good rod, because there's a chance to get some decently leveled Pokemon there, which we definitely will need later on. So we enter into the dock ferry construction zone, and we speak to this guy, and he's like, well, you need to find Captain Stern. So we quickly shoot up to the museum, which now all of a sudden has absolutely allowed the entire Team Magma inside, which, I mean, I would be suspicious if I saw a whole bunch of guys dressed in a singular outfit basically heading up into a museum like some kind of organized flash mob. It would just give me anxiety. So we enter the museum. You can't battle any of the guys here, and also it's a bit cheap that they make you pay 50 Pokebucks. I always wondered what would happen if you just didn't have it. You probably have to go over, sell something, or do something to get it. I actually have no idea. So I'd be interested to know if anyone knows what would happen if you got to that point in the game you just didn't have 50 bucks with you. So we find Captain Stern, but then we're accosted by two gruesome little Pokemon Magma grunts. Fortunately, they are absolutely useless at their jobs, and we're able to easily clean them up. The first one, he has a Numel. Really nothing too crazy for us. We easily manage to basically hold him out and kind of like give him a good time. Teemo's obviously doing great, but he has no water moves, so he's kind of not actually cool to take down a Numel, which is a little bit of a shame. But we easily clean up the Numel with our Kippy, who does a sick job of just basically gunning him down with a water gun, gunning him down in the streets. So sorts him out. Then we move on to the second grunt, who pops out a Zubat before popping out a Numel, basically just as a way to give us a little bit of extra XP. So thanks, man. Really, really cool. And Timo hits 14, which is awesome. We're nearing kind of that point. So Timo is really good for like some chip damage actually, and it could come in useful for the Grovyle that appears with May later on, because if we can Poison Sting that Grovyle, we can slowly take it out, especially if we can get Poison Sting and Supersonic off. Would be really strong. It might cost us to trade Timo's life, but it would be really good, But we'll get some levels on him as well, so we should be more than fine actually. And we'll see him kind of progress in levels, and we should be able to get some pretty good value out of it. But yeah, we usually wrap up the Team Magma grunts, and then obviously we take on well, we don't take on anyone, but we meet Maxi. So Maxi is the leader of the Team Magma. Maxi Magma, I know, really ingenuitive. And yeah, basically we chat to him. He says he just wants to expand the world's landmass. We need more space for people, more space, you know, to grow the population, for everyone to be happy, to grow more crops. Little does he know that would basically destroy the ecosystem. Well, I think they both know, kind of. I'm certain both leaders are just trying to bring around world devastation. Like, I'm almost entirely certain. There's no ways they could think that expanding the landmass, or alternatively expanding the seas, would be in any way like a good thing to do. We obtained TM46 from a Team Magma grunt. You can actually miss this TM, by the way, and he'll just stand here like the whole game, which is super duper interesting. But hey, it is what it is. So we leave the museum, and then we basically are ready to head out of Slateport and move on up through the bicycle lane, which is pretty cool. The ferry is not ready yet, so we have no real reason to hang around. And then we move up through Route 1110. Now, Route 1110 is pretty cool. It actually has the cycling road, which is one of the easiest ways to hatch eggs in the game, by the way. But before we go anywhere there, we have to fight a couple more people and gain some more levels. Unfortunately, we come across our first double battle. And I say unfortunately because I'm about to do probably the stupidest thing I've ever done in a Pokemon game, like by far. So obviously you can see I send out Plusle and Minun. I very clearly go to Supersonic the Plusle and then move to Mudshot the Minun. But instead, I go one too far, and because I'm clicking too fast, I Mudshot my own Pokemon. Not only my own Pokemon, but my second highest Pokemon. My second highest leveled Pokemon. It is a devastating moment for us, and basically is the absolute worst thing that could happen. Not only did he take a significant amount of EXP, but he also was one of our solutions for doing damage to Grovyle, which, by the way, is going to become a lot harder, even without Teemo. But anyway, we have to move on. We easily clean up Plusle and Minun, like we clearly should have in the beginning, and instead of Teemo hitting rank or level 15, we give some XP to Marvin, who at this point is basically going to have to be our backup and go to backup, because we literally have no other options. And this poses us a huge problem later on, which you're going to see. But still reeling from the loss of Teemo, which, by the way, is probably the most devastating thing I've ever actually had happen to me in a Pokemon game. Yeah, it was pretty rough. So we beat our first double battle, but we lose our second strongest Pokemon, which is not great. It's not great. We continue to level a little bit and clean up some of these side fights, just basically trying to get some final bits of EXP, especially before we take on Grovyle. So May is very, obviously Grovyle has Absorb. Absorb is a 4 times effective move against us. I also tried to hook another Tentacool because I thought maybe the game would gift me one, and I got a Magikarp, so instead of adding him to the collection, I incinerated him. But that's not important. Basically, the thing is yeah, we have a big problem because Grovyle has Absorb, and Absorb is 4 times effective to us, and it's going to be a big problem. We try to go into the Trickster's house, but we don't have Cut. I haven't taught it to anyone yet. We can't, well, yeah, we can't use it yet. So for now, the Trickster's going to have to remain off limits until we can get ourselves a Good Rod or something, or Surf, and maybe get like a Crawfish or something. Just because, yeah, at this point we're obviously not in a great situation. So now we move on to face May, and she's a huge problem for us, like a massive problem for us. This dire hit is super crucial. By the way, we are going to need it. We're also going to need all the soda pops that we picked up beforehand. So the battle against May is definitely at this point for most players, I don't want to say like a good kind of checkpoint, but it is a very nice checkpoint to see if your team is in the right direction. Now ideally you have some kind of Pokemon that can counter Grovyle, though there's not a lot of Pokemon that can counter Grovyle at this point in the game. You don't really have access to any fire types unless you went for Blaziken, but you know, of course they would have Marsh Stomp by then, so it's kind of a thing. So we take out the Walmer with pretty much like big ease. The big problem is that he actually gets off a couple growls, which actually diminishes our overall damage, which isn't great, to be honest. Then obviously the next Pokemon she sends out is Grovyle, and this is basically a war of attrition. So the fight against Grovyle is a literal war of attrition. We're basically throwing ourselves at a wall here. We're going to use the dire hit. We also have a X attack, I believe, as well. Mudshot does not do a lot of damage at all. Neither does Water Gun, even if we are in a pinch, which we're going to have to be. And then, of course, we also need basically, well, how can I say? We also need to get off a crit. So the big thing is essentially we are just kind of throwing ourselves at a brick wall here. And the goal here is to kind of wear him down, apply the X attack, apply the dire hit, and essentially go, okay, you know what, now at this point we get lucky and we get a crit. That's basically the entire process of this. So you just basically consume, take hits, consume, take hits, consume, take hits. If we were smart, we would have bought more from the Pokemart. Would have made our lives way easier. We will be stocking up on those definitely before we take on anyone else. But yeah, it's a bit rough. So we do have to a certain extent, kind of like, especially here we gamble. We gambled a lot. Realistically, I could have done maybe like a little bit like more in terms of preparation, but to be honest, I was not expecting to lose Tentacool, or Tentacool I should say, and I was kind of thrown by that. I was kind of sitting like very like out of the loop. I wasn't really like, you know, thinking too well, basically. So it was kind of like a big shock, and it threw me. Not gonna lie, I was kind of like, well, maybe the run has to end here because we're not in a good situation. We're way behind now on where we need to be. We don't have a second backup Pokemon. We don't have anything. Grovyle is just bitching me, and yeah, basically I was kind of in like a bad space, a very bad space. But we got lucky. Literally as soon as I cut recording to just kind of roll through and get to the point where maybe we won, we actually got a crit. So it was pretty big. It was with Water Gun as well, which was really nice. So Water Gun crit, and that set us up to be, yeah, basically ready to go. It's a tough fight. Definitely it's a huge one for Marsh Stomp. We have this big disadvantage to Grovyle. Once we become Swampert and we can pick up some really good abilities to kind of counter Grovyle, things become way easier. But this is a big kind of checkpoint, especially for a Nuzlocke run, where you know you can't like just kind of try the fight again and pray for different RNG. This was a very big turning point for us, and a very big check for us as players. After that, we face a Newell, and yeah, basically clean him up pretty easily. And from there, we're in still a tight situation because we're so low on health. but the last two trainers do pose some difficulties, but we should be able to handle them, hopefully avoid them, basically. But yeah, so a pretty tough fight. We managed to get some good luck, which honestly would not have happened without that dire hit. The dire hit was a huge one, because we definitely don't have enough crit to guarantee that crit. We get the item finder from May, which is really cool, and then basically our goal now is to get all the way into the next city, which is still a challenge. The next two trainers are actually still a bit of a problem. At least the very next trainer is. He has a Lombre and a Nuzleaf, and we are out of really good moves, so trying to avoid him as much as possible. You can see here, and of course he spots me, so really sick kind of job there. Really great stealth mechanics that I'm kind of running, but yeah, realistically here this is a big-ish problem for us. Lombre and Nuzleaf. The big thing here is that he prefers to use nature's power, so I think it was a really like big kind of bit of fortune there, because we only have tackle. We only really have tackle, which is like basically our only move left, and yeah, we are lucky with the Swifts and we don't take a lot of damage, and then we only have to face Abra, so things go pretty well for us, and we managed to survive. Of course, this trip was not like, yeah, this is not really a big like, how can I say, this was not really a great moment for us. We lost a Pokemon, we've used up all our items, so basically at this point we're going to heal up. We're going to stock back up on items from the Pokemon, and yeah, basically we're kind of doing a soft reset at Morphle City, which isn't great, but there are worse things like losing the run. So but at this point we've had a lot of close calls, a lot of them are necessarily not so much because we're pushing it. Well, I think yeah, it's mainly because we're pushing our luck. We're not necessarily going like a focal route. We're not using items necessarily right now. Realistically, just keeping things tight and just kind of relying on our good natural progression that we have when you pick a Mudkip. We just got a bit unlucky along the way, especially KOing our own Pokemon. Kind of like the stupidest thing we could possibly do. So yeah, pretty simple stuff, but honestly speaking, at this point we're really okay. The Electricity Gym, Mudkip is one of those weird Pokemon whereby the gym you think should be a problem for water Pokemon, he just absolutely does not care about. So before we go into there, we have to deposit Teemo into the box 1, of course, as per the rules. We cannot use him for anything. Unfortunately, we cannot name a graveyard, so it's the Graveyard, which sounds a bit like someone from Brooklyn, which is also fine. So yeah, at this point, you know, most people think, oh, what a Pokemon, you'll definitely struggle with the Electricity Gym. No. So Marsh Stomp and to a greater extent Mudkip as Pokemon, the ground typing really kind of helps him out in the situation. Not only that, but he learns 2 moves, which we've made sure we've learned, which essentially fundamentally turn the Electricity Gym in its entirety into a XP farm. So the big thing is we have Mud Sport. Mud Sport reduces the effectiveness of electricity moves, which is pretty big, but we also have Mud Shot, and Mud Shot is one of the few ground moves that can hit Pokemon that also levitate. So most times Pokemon that levitate, as in Pokemon that are not on the ground, and like flying Pokemon, that they can't be hit by ground moves. Obviously you can't be hit by an earthquake if you're flying in the air, technically. But there are a couple moves that can kind of move past those mechanics. So one of them is Rock Throw, which obviously does a lot of damage to Pokemon, and the other one is Mud Shot. So Mudshot can hit all Pokemon that levitate, which oddly enough includes Magnemite, and we handle this gym with super duper ease. I throw down a Mudsport just to kind of play it safe. It's not that I believe we're gonna get absolutely like derailed here. It's just that obviously after the incident with Mudshotting my own Pokemon and then almost getting KO'd by Grovyle, you know, I'm definitely just kind of playing it safe. Without being too kind of intense on myself, I'm playing it safe. I want to kind of make sure that we can get through this gym and then kind of move on to, you know, the next couple, because the next step of the journey is actually quite a big one overall. And so yeah, making sure that we can get through this one, we should technically have a pretty smooth passage after this with you know, Marsh Stomp or Kippy, and should be able to become a Swampert, and then things are pretty smooth sailing for the most part. But yeah, pretty big stuff. So far so good. Clean up Watson, super duper easy, and yeah, everything ran super duper well, and yeah, super clean. So a good end to a tough video. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care and bye. G'day and welcome back to another Pokemon Ruby episode. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at basically the journey to the 4th badge. Now this is going to be a bit of a long one. Basically there's a lot that we need to do, and there's a lot of story elements that we have to get across. We're also going to have to go and prep a second Pokemon properly, because we need someone that can do HMs, and as of now we currently don't have anyone barring our starter, and we really don't want our starter to have to do all the HMs. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick up the bike. I pick up the Acro bike mainly because it allows me to wheelie, and yeah, the Mark bike is actually preferred because of the speed, but I like the Acro bike because I like the hopping, and there are some areas you can only access. You will have to switch between both throughout the game if you want to explore all the areas, which was always something that was really cool when I was a kid. So the bike is super important. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to finish off a couple of little things around Morville Town before we really kind of progress. We're going to go along the right hand side here. Although we can't go across because we don't have surf yet, we'll be battling the trainers here. Mainly just to get some levels. There are a couple Shroomishes and Rosalias, but because we're so strong, we don't have a big problem. We're also electing not to learn Takedown, mainly because at this point in time there's just not really anything too major to get with it. Then we go to the casino. We're going to need to get a coin case to have access to the casino. Unfortunately, there's no ability to gain Pokemon from this casino. One of my favorite things from Crystal was being able to grab, or Silver and all those ones, was being able to grab the Porygon, which was obviously super cool. Plus you could get a whole bunch of other Pokemon, which would have been helpful here if we could pick up a water type Pokemon, but unfortunately we cannot. So yeah, to get the coin case though, we have to basically go and get Harbor Mail. We also get Rock Smash, which we're definitely going to need. And we can get Rock Smash from the scientist that's in the little kind of hut there. We go to this lady in her house, and she also offers us a, well, she doesn't offer it, but she mentions that she wants a Harbor Mail, and if we get Harbor Mail, then we'll be able to exchange it, and she'll give us a coin case. Now, there are a couple bikers on this trip, so they're not too difficult. A lot of them just have kind of like a Magnemite, but it's not a big problem for us. We have both Mudshot and Water Gun, which is effective against Magnemite because it's a steel typing. So generally speaking, we're able to clear this up pretty easily. There's honestly not a lot that we need to do to get through here. Once we get back to Slayport, we pick up the Harbor Mail, grab it, and then basically travel back through the bicycle road. And along the way, we pick up any of the trainers that we may have missed on the way down. Again, none of these battles are anything too crazy, and we're basically just pumping XP into our starter, because at this point, after losing Tentacool in the last episode, we're kind of basically stuck with just kind of mass spamming the starter for now. So yeah, of course, again, the biker trainers are really nothing too crazy. We go to back to the lady and we pick up the coin case. This was more just for whatever, because obviously, like I mentioned, we don't actually have the ability to get anything from the casino. But it was still cool to pick up the coin case because it does help out. And of course, yeah, we could eventually pick up some TMs or something from there. So there is possibly some helpfulness later on. We'll just have to see, what happens basically. So yeah, we go to the casino, we get the coin case, take a look at what we can get, but there's obviously nothing, which means we're now going to push off a little bit to the left of Morville and travel along the route and do a couple important things here. So the first thing we're going to be doing when we travel along this way is the daycare. So the daycare is super important. We're going to be placing 2 of our Pokemon inside of here. The reason being is we need both of these Pokemon to get a lot of levels. So we need both Martin and Marvin, our mighty Magikarp duo, to both get close to level 20. We're going to be leaving one of them inside. I think probably Marvin. We're going to be leaving one of them inside, and we'll only pick that one up around the Elite 4 time. But the other one we're going to be picking up basically very soon. Now I'll tell you guys what we're going to do, but basically we're going to run around a lot. So we do need to keep one in our party for now. That's because there's a couple double battles that I want to take advantage of for the extra EXP for them. So basically we're going to be doing that. But yeah, the big thing is basically when they're in the daycare, they gain XP for every step that you take. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to essentially be, how can I say, forcing our Pokemon to level. So we are going to be, to cut a long story short, running around a lot. But the first thing we're going to do is get to Verdant Town. A couple reasons for this. So mainly the big reason is just to get there. Go to the Pokemon Center there, because later on when we get Fly, we're going to want to be able to fly there. We can't do anything, we can't Rock Smash or do anything to break the barrier between Verdant and Davenport. At least right now we can't. So at this point in time, it's not something that we can do. But what we can do basically at this point is we can get our contest pass, and then we can also heal our Pokemon as well. We'll be back here later on once we've leveled up the one Magikarp, because we will need a level 20 Magikarp or Gyarados before we are able to basically, how can I say, before we're going to be able to essentially get to the next section of the story, because we actually legitimately need Rock Smash to progress, and I don't want to teach it to Swampert because Swampert has to learn 4 very crucial moves for the Elite 4. So if we don't teach Swampert Rock Smash, or if we do, we're using a very valuable slot for a move on his basically roster, and it's just not good. Like, it's just not something that we want to do. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Not too much else in the town, honestly. There's a lady here that will tell you how much your Pokemon digs you. She's pretty helpful if you're doing something like Zubat, trying to obviously look at Crobats or something like that. But yeah, there's nothing else really too major here. At this point, we don't also have a lot more to do on this side of things. So what we do is we basically just pick up a contest pass. And yeah, from that point of view, we essentially just get ready to go and progress onwards. Contests are really cool. I'll probably do a couple, maybe before we finish off the Nuzlocke, just because I actually really enjoy contests. They're like one of the most fun things that I really got to do in Ruby and Emerald and Sapphire, because I owned all 3, because why not? But yeah, the big thing is, like, it was super fun to do contests, and it was just something very different that, like, they obviously added into a Pokemon game, but it was just really fun to kind of have them added in, and I think it was just a really cool thing to do. Gave Pokemon conditions and stuff, and just made it a really fun kind of mini side game, which I think was, I don't want to say it was the first real mini side game that they did, but it was at least the first one I noticed that was like a full-fledged kind of fun world built-in mechanic when it came to Pokemon. So really cool stuff. Don't really know what we're going to do with the Marsh Stomp just yet, good old Kippy, but we'll have to see whether he leans into the cute or the tough. Eventually he will be a Swampert, so I think we might have to lean into the cute, because everyone knows that that bad boy is cute. But yeah, picked up a couple of TMs and some items here, but the next step forward realistically is only to go up. Now, a couple of things we need to do here basically to prep ourselves to go upwards. So the first thing is we will go and fight the Windstraight family. The Windstraight family is basically like a series of 4 battles in a row. They're actually really nice for 2 reasons. So firstly, they're like a very big EXP boost, which is super cool. They're like a very nice EXP boost for your Pokemon. And then also, they give you the Marco Brace. And the Macho or Marco, or whatever way you want to put it, like the Mark Bike, but the Macho Brace, essentially can prevent your Pokemon from passing out, which is something pretty helpful when you're doing a Nuzlocke, in case you're wondering. So yeah, pretty straightforward stuff. Obviously, we start off with the first one. Nothing too crazy in any of these fights, though, to be honest with you. Really nothing that could give us remotely any real issues. This first fight here, I think we really had no issues whatsoever. The second fight was again also no real big deal. There was no actual Windstraight family member that caused us issues, at least on the surface level of things. We then fought his wife, who sent out a Roselia, but because she's so low level, Mudshot's able to basically pretty much take her out, or because we're so high level, I should say. So yeah, realistically we didn't really have any major problems. The Windstraight family is also pretty cool from like a money point of view. It's a decent bit of tom for any player that's kind of looking to catch up on some cash. But yeah, realistically our main goal here was to get the Macho Brace. Yeah, all of these fights were pretty simple. You can see we don't take a lot of damage on Kippy. We do battle my arch nemesis Shroomish though, who honestly speaking is probably the most irritating Pokemon when you have a Marsh Stomp Swampert starter like in the game. Just the paralysis, the absorb, he learns Mega Absorb as well, close to level 20. There's just a lot I don't like about Shroomish. That obviously causes a huge problem for a 4 times effective weak Pokemon to grass type moves, which is always a bit of a shame. But yeah, generally speaking we didn't have any major problems. Outside of Shroomish, everything was pretty straightforward. And even the final Windstraight family member we just beat in one go. So yeah, it was pretty chilled. Honestly speaking, it really was. And we didn't have any like problems taking out the Windstraight family, which is fine because at this point we don't actually still have a second backup Pokemon. And that's kind of our next big step. So I tried really hard to see if I could snag anything other than the Magikarp. But unfortunately, I really couldn't. I didn't get that lucky, and we don't need more than 2. One of them is going to be our actual Gyarados that we're going to use for the end game, and one of them is just going to be the crazy Pokemon that we keep in the party that knows Waterfall, Surf, Rock Smash, and just basically every HM that we can teach them. As you can see, our Pokemon has gained a couple levels, but this is going to have to change quite rapidly. The reason I put both of them in is because since I'm going to be running a lot of steps to try and boost the one, might as well give that EXP to the other as a bit of a head start on their leveling process when we pick them up later. And then we run. We run a lot. I ran for about 3 hours, which is not great in terms of enjoyment, but hey, if you've got a football game on, then you can at least watch that. But yeah, we do have to collect all the eggs, unfortunately, which will hatch into Magikarp, but we won't be able to use any of them because obviously we can only have 1 per route, and we already got our Pokemon for this route. Not entirely certain how Nuzlocks work in terms of eggs, but I basically just don't use them. So yeah, once our Pokemon get to about level 19, we're then able to pick them up, and basically we're now going to take them and quickly speed level the one to level 20. So once it gets to level 19, we're just going to switch, rotate in and out, and get ourselves to level 20 so we can get that evolution into Gyarados. I know for me it's Gyarados, but yeah, for some people it's Gyarados, or yeah, just depends. I like to say Gary. But yeah, so now we're just going to keep switch battling basically some wild Pokemon. We actually almost died, well, not almost died, but we got pretty low doing this. It got a bit reckless, and yeah, we survived more than fine, thankfully, and we only needed to beat the Surskit, and then when we did, we got the EXP to push good old Martin to level 20, which is a very big level, because like I said, it gives us finally our second Pokemon that's honestly usable, which is a very big component to finally get. It's a very helpful situation to be in when you actually have a second, I know, a second usable Pokemon. It's pretty unbelievable. So now we have Gyarados, and basically, yeah, this is a huge moment for us. We're going to be teaching him Rock Smash. Obviously, very crucial to teach him Rock Smash because it's going to now enable us to make some big story progresses. So, Rock Smash, very crucial to progressing. We were very fortunate that we didn't need to use Cut or anything. We would have had to teach it to our starter. I believe Mudkip's the only one that can learn it. But we're very fortunate now we're in a situation where we're able to, you know, like use all these moves. So we head back to obviously the side town. Here we basically free our man who was digging, excavating all the way back at the beginning of the game. So you can visit Wanda, his wife, and he gives us a new HM, which will come in handy later, which is super important. And at this point as well, we can break the rocks and head up, where we find the camera crew, who, by the way, are like one of the best training battles in the game. So the camera crew, they always appear at set routes in the game, and they're always a double battle, and their Pokemon will progressively get stronger, all the way up to like a max of, I think, level 38, all the way up to the Elite Four. But they can literally be fought every time they change route, and they'll change route every time that you fight them. So I think there's 4 areas they can appear, if I remember. This is the first one. Then they appear by the Tree City. There's a couple places they appear, but basically I used to just fly around. This was back in the day. I used to just fly around and fight them literally like all the time to get tons of XP, because doing a double battle against 2 level 38s gives a very surprisingly decent amount of EXP, and it was a very easy fight that you could clear with like 1 surf. So with just flying around for like an hour doing double battles, not only did I make a lot of money, but basically I essentially managed to get myself some pretty good kind of EXP, and was able to really farm up EXP. Obviously I can't do that just yet, but I will consider doing that to level up my party, as it's just one of the better, safer ways to do so, because we don't really have any outward weaknesses to their team, especially since we get Muddy Water and things like that, which, you know, will do some good AoE decent damage as well. So yeah, outside from that, obviously now the next goal is we have to essentially get to Mount Fall, so we have to go and get the kind of asteroid that is dropped there. There's no real specific game cues to get it. You just kind of travel upwards and then hear about Team Magma kidnapping a professor, and then kind of take things from there. Along the way we got lucky and we had Kippy evolve, which is really awesome because Swampit's not only like a huge upgrade, but it means that with Swampit, essentially we are now basically kind of nearing it, like having the meta starter Pokemon. We're like 1 Muddy Water and like 2 TMs away from basically being able to solo the whole game with them, which is pretty good, all things considered. So yeah, obviously we can't ride the cable car yet. We need to still get to the original kind of asteroid area and rescue the professor, and then we'll be able to ride the cable car. Along the way, of course, we get secret power, which is super duper helpful because it allows us to make a secret base, although we won't really need to make a secret base because we can't have friends that visit. Secret bases was also pretty cool because you could battle your friends, and I believe they gave you XP, if I remember correctly. So it was really cool if you had like a couple friends, basically add a couple battles that you could kind of like play or farm for EXP, but also just kind of cool to battle your friends. Obviously we hit the rest stop, and at this point we're basically just kind of motoring through. A lot of the fights on the side of the map are just basically not tailored to our typing, but we just don't have any type disadvantage. So we're very much kind of like in control of all of these fights. There's not a lot of Pokemon that give us like outward issues, basically. We have the interview on TV, which is cool, although obviously it's not like anything, you know, too major. They clearly enjoyed battling us. It was one of the things that I really liked the most about Ruby, was kind of this interactivity of the world that you would have. Next we head on the way through all the soot. This was probably it's one of the most aesthetically pleasing things to run through the soot, but also the thing that triggered my OCD the most. I very often would just get into tons of wild Pokemon fights because I would have to clear all of the soot before I could move on. There was a chance to get a Skarmory here, which is like a super low rate drop, and I would spend a lot of time here trying to farm that Skarmory, which was pretty crazy. And then I always dig the Ninja Kids because they would be like, how did you see me in my hiding space? Meanwhile, it's just a massive head that's basically like hidden underneath the sand. It's just very interesting, basically. Couple double fights here as well. Nothing too crazy, but again, just realistically some pretty nice EXP that we can feed into Martin. Although he's got Rock Smash, he is pretty much right now our only second viable option. So at this point we really do kind of need to continue improving him and giving him EXP, because it is kind of like, you know, super important. But yeah, we make our way through to the next town. Obviously we find the guy who gives us a suit sack as well. A really nice kind of equip or, you know, key item. Allows us to collect soot, and he can make flutes which remove status effects or grant status effects. I think they remove status effects, but I can't really remember directly what they do, but he does do some stuff with the soot, which I always found to be pretty interesting. So yeah, obviously collecting soot is not really something we're going to do too heavily, but it was something that was pretty cool back in the day, but it's definitely not something we're super interested in, at least not right now. There's no real reason for us. So for Route 113, we basically then hit into Falabor Town. Falabor Town's got a couple of super interesting things, not least the move tutor, who's of course actually super duper interesting, obviously allowing us to teach our Pokemon moves. We'll definitely be coming back to him a little bit later because there are some crucial things that we'll have to teach our Gyarados, or Gyarados. I'm just going to call him Gyarados. That's what I call him. I'm not going to change what I call him. It's probably wrong, but hey. So yeah, we're going to call him Gyarados. Anyway, we're going to teach some of our Pokemon some moves later on. Right now, it's not like a huge train smash. We meet Lynette, who designed the PC system. She's like a cousin of Bill or something. And then we find out that we need to head to Professor Cosmo's lab. Here as well, we find a little contest hall, which is cool. Nothing too crazy that we'll need to do here, but it is something that's pretty cool. I always love the contest halls, just some weird people inside. But yeah, so from there, basically, we're going to head on down through to the mountain. So nothing else really that we need to pick up here. At least not on the surface level. Basically we're just heading off to Meteor Falls, and then we're going to essentially just try and pick up some more XP along the way. Again, there's not like any real fights here that are necessarily difficult for us. So a lot of them are normal type Pokemon, water type Pokemon, fire type Pokemon, rock type Pokemon because of the Geodudes and the Mountaineers, and a couple fire guys. There's really nothing too crazy here, so we're not really looking at a lot of like intense combat, a lot of like one-hit move kills, and just in general like a very straightforward process basically. So we're going to head all the way to Meteor Falls. This requires us to kind of drop a little bit down here. Nothing too wild though. We also don't actually need anything else. Along the way we find Lynette's house. She gives us a C-Dot doll, which is a little bit disappointing. Would be cool to get an EV. I don't know what the technicalities are about an EV, but if I get an EV and turn it into Vaporeon, I assume I can use it, basically. But I think in a Nuzlocke you're not allowed to use any gift Pokemon, if I remember correctly. So we're not able to do that. Along the way we continue to pick up double battles. Again, Roselia is probably the scariest thing we're going to face. Or Shroomish. Definitely Shroomish. It's always Shroomish. But yeah, here, like again, because we're so powerful, because Kippy's really hitting critical mass, he's got that tertiary evolution, those big stat boosts, we're really kind of like able to deal with a lot of the issue Pokemon quite quickly. So like we're able to beat Roselia's in one go, we're able to beat a lot of Pokemon in kind of like a one go. And what this does is it kind of just gives us a good basis to work off of. We get Muddy Water and replace Mudsport with it. We're not facing any large piles of electrical Pokemon that we can't beat with Mudshot. So we're going to take Muddy Water instead for some AoE clear and just a higher base level water move. Once we get to Meteor Falls, we don't do too much. We lose our chance to potentially fish here because we have a Zubat attack us. Awesome, thanks Zubat. But yeah, we end up facing Team Magma, but not really fighting them or anything, because Archie from Team Aqua rocks up, basically tells us that the Team Magma are trying to destroy the planet, and he's also trying to destroy the planet, but in the complete opposite direction. So, or at least in Emerald, that's what he does. In Sapphire and Ruby, they kind of played off as like just trying to bring the balance. So we're not going to let them, make more land because, it's not necessary. But I always found it a bit strange because clearly Team Aqua's goal would be to make more water. And I think the one thing Emerald does do is kind of make that way more interesting as a topic. So I think Emerald really does a good job of kind of making the whole Team Magma, Team Aqua dichotomy really kind of play out a lot better. Which for me is way more interesting, like just in general. We're finally able to grab the cable car, and we head up and face Team Magma. There's nothing really like super funky here. Again, with mainly Poochyenas and stuff like that. What we do is take out the first two Team Magma grunts who exist just before we take on Maxie. But then we take on Maxie, which we'll watch kind of like the full fight there because it's a bit more interesting. I always found it super funny how Archie's Poochyena is very clearly just doing like triple the workload of the other Poocyenas, and how they like animated him running like super quick, like like as if he's really working super hard. So we listen to Maxie and his plan to kind of like blow up the volcano and create more landmass, which obviously is not so lacquer. It's not such a cool thing, but also I kind of vibe with it, like Sigma alpha male, big alpha male play to kind of capitalize on the real estate market, probably also into NFTs. But yeah, his team is not really a big issue. He has a Mightyena, a Golbat, and he also has a Numel. All of which we take out pretty easy just using Muddy Water. So it's actually a pretty simple, straightforward. Muddy Water basically one-shots the whole team. So we don't end up having like any huge issues, which is cool. I think it's more than fine to make life a bit easier. So I was actually quite happy to just kind of one-shot all of them. As much as it's maybe not the most thrilling in terms of combat, at this point we're taking what we can get because after losing Tentacool, it's not so fun to switch up. And Martin, that's going to get confusing. I shouldn't have done that. Martin is not yet ready to really take on these Pokemon. Although we will probably start really just switching him in. Because at this point, Kippy is very much dominant, which is what we want. But we're going to need more options than just one. for the Elite Four, just from like a workload perspective, realistically. We head down the jagged pass. After clearing the volcano, Maxie kind of comes to his senses, I guess, or realizes, hey, I should probably do something else. And that brings us all the way down to Lava Ridge Town. Now, Lava Ridge Town is a very small town, but there's a couple of things here. There's actually the energy root salesman, or the herb salesman, who's got some cheaper alternatives to things like protein and calcium, but his suck because they make your Pokemon hate you. It's not actually a big thing for us because we're not relying on our Pokemon to like us, but it is something that's, you know, not necessarily ideal in the long run. We also pick up an egg here. I actually cannot remember what this egg hatches into, which is a bit of a problem, but hey. And so yeah, we pick up the egg, and then the next goal is basically to take on Flannery at the gym. And Flannery is, again, a super simple fight for us. Swampert has given us the upper hand in most of the gyms so far, and Flannery is no exception. We continue to have the complete upper hand, and everything kind of runs super duper simple. So yeah, basically we have full-on type advantage against your team. We have literally no issues. With Muddy Water especially as well, we're basically able to one-shot our whole team. And what this does is it basically gives us like a super duper like easy ride. Slugma, one shot. There's also Turkle, who we one shot because I think he's doubled. I think he's ground and fire. So the two Slugmas and the Torkoal, pretty straightforward. Martin doesn't have any water moves, otherwise I would have let him gain some EXP here. Probably could have let him get some EXP here, actually. Wouldn't have been a bad call either. But for now it's okay. Basically it's a pretty simple kind of process. So yeah, was a relatively easy gym fight. And that's that for this section. Probably the longest one. It might be the longest section, or it could be the second longest section. I think the section with the legendary will be quite long, and then I think the other section by the tree city could also be quite long. But it just depends on how it cuts up, I guess, and what happens. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Was quite eventful, this one. And yeah, we're definitely hitting critical mass with Kippy, so definitely going to work on Gyarados. The big goal next will be to get the Good Rod and get some extra diversity into the team and train them up. But yeah, we're definitely getting to kind of like a good place in terms of just like at least having a really strong starter. And Swampert does really help out the team a lot. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like. And I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care, stay safe, and yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, bye. Good day, and welcome back to another episode of Pokemon. So we're back with Pokemon, continuing our journey. We've just defeated the gym leader, and basically we're now on to the next leg of our journey. It's going to be quite a big one. We should basically get to Fortree City in this one. We'll take on our dad's gym. We'll also get Surf. We're going to do a lot of significant things here. But first we need to dispose of the Magikarp from the breeding extravaganza that we performed in the last episode. And yeah, basically we just need to essentially get rid of some of our, I don't want to say mistakes, but just, yeah, get rid of some of our good friends. So yeah, pretty straightforward. We also have the ability to now go into the desert, which is really helpful. We're able to head into the desert and obviously grab ourselves quite a few things here. What we're going to be doing is we are going to be training up our good old Gyarados, good old Kippy and Martin and Marvin and the gang. We are going to be leveling in the desert here. So there's a couple of Cacnea, but they're not a huge problem. Generally speaking, a ton of these trainers have like Sandshrew, Pokemon like that. So what it does is it basically allows us to kind of feed some EXP into our Pokemon, because we do have obviously the very strong starter, but basically we are at the point where we need to start really getting a strong second option, and then eventually a third option. So we battle a couple of the trainers, taking them out really with relative ease. Honestly, none of them really posed a huge problem. Even those with Cacneas and things like that weren't really high enough to give us like a big kind of challenge. It was a great time to give Martin some XP. During this time, we also found the fossil. We're not able to use either of them. The claw fossil is Amaranth, or Amarath. Not Amaranth, no, definitely not her. Ooh. But it's Amarath, and yeah, basically super duper straightforward. The claw fossil, very, very simple. We can't use it because it's not water type. Same with the root fossil. Once we're done in the desert, we head back through the Route 117, all the way back to Verdant Turf Town. And from there, we're going to take the shortcut all the way back through to Rustborough. And the reason we're going back to Rustborough is twofold. Firstly, we want to... I hate caves. The first thing we want to do is we actually want to awaken our fossil, even though we can't use it. And secondly, we're going to cut down all the way back to our father's gym, and we're going to take him on, because that is the next step. So for those who don't know, taking on our father's gym, kind of a big deal, super important to us. He basically has been giving us abuse our entire lives, waiting for the day we will take him on in a Pokemon battle, and this is the absolute perfect time for us to do so. There's some really cool, interesting foreshadowing as well, or I guess foreshadowing, but you can see they're kind of tossing around some ideas with these scientists. Like they mentioned here, dreams, which is a huge part, if you don't know, of Pokemon White and Black. They talk about speaking to Pokemon, which is obviously a huge part later on of the Mystery Dungeon series. So yeah, there's just a really kind of like a really cool, I want to say, kind of bit of foreshadowing that they did here. So looking back at these games, you can kind of see like not where they were testing, not maybe so where they were testing ideas, but just generally kind of like where you could see they were always thinking about like future parts for the series. So yeah, this kind of asked us to take a long walk. We just basically exit and walk back in. It was always my favorite thing to do as a kid, and essentially we're able to get our fossil. Unfortunately, we're not able to use it, but hey, at least we were able to get something done out of it. So yeah, it's Anorith, not Amaranth or Amaroth or Amaranth. It's Anorith, and yeah, we're not going to be able to use him, it's him. We're not going to be able to use him, unfortunately, because he is a bug-type Pokemon. So we are essentially a little bit caught out by that, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Along the way, we also get to finally have what was supposed to be our first double battle. But yeah, these poor girls, shame. Just imagine you're just having a good day along the bridge with your sister, just hanging out, and challenge this guy to a Pokemon battle, and he just brings out Pokemon that basically are like 3 times the size of your current roster. It would just be a travesty. So we are gonna heal up and then take on our dad's gym. A couple important things to know about the gym. So it's a normal type Pokemon gym, but there's a couple really cool things. So firstly, you take on a lot of trainers, and you take them on essentially. They have different rooms. Those rooms, make them essentially drop, or they use items to augment their Pokemon. So there's like a speed room, he'll use X speed. There's a critical hit room, he'll use dire hit. There's a whole bunch of different like trainers that will drop different items. We're going to be strong enough to beat them. That's not like the huge problem. The big thing that's interesting, what makes this so interesting, essentially is basically that we're going to actually fight all the gym trainers. So we're going to fight every single one of the trainers, and the reason we're going to do this is because we want to get the EXP. We're going to be feeding it into Martin. So we're going to be feeding Martin EXP as much as possible, because it's super important that he gains a couple of levels. So I'll be backing in and out of rooms, constantly taking on the trainers, and just trying to grab as much EXP as possible, which is good because it does push Martin up a couple levels, which is actually very big for his development. But eventually we get through all of the trainers and it's time to take on our dad. Now he's got 3 Pokemon. He has Slacking. He's got 2 Slackings, if I remember correctly. One's lower level, one's higher level. And then he's got, I can't remember the name, but it's basically I think it's also a Sloth Pokemon. I think it's actually the prior evolved form to Slacking. Now Slacking is just tanky. Facade or Facade. It's Facade, but okay, some people say Facade, but yeah, Facade. Unfortunately, can do a pretty decent chunk of damage, so we do have to be a little bit wary of that. And obviously also our dad's a cheater like us and will use hyper potions and potions whenever his Pokemon basically enter the red. So we're going to need that Quick Claw to come in handy so that we can get the first move and the first breakage, and then we get Muddy Watered and we're able to take him out. Nice crit hit as well, so very good stuff. There we go. It's Vigoroth. But yes, this is the prior evolved form to Slacking, which is always a bit weird, but anyway, Vigoroth isn't too much of an issue. They're all the same thing. Facade. We're generally strong enough to take them out. We can use Mudshot. Mudshot's got that added bonus of slowing down the opposition, which does help us out, especially with the whole potion spamming mechanism that they all use. But yeah, we're able to pretty much take out our father with pretty much straightforward ease. There's really not like that much challenging stuff that we have to do to take him out. His Pokemon are just far too underleveled realistically to take us on, and we're just far too powerful realistically to lose. We also get a really nice critical hit on that Mudshot, which does huge damage, by the way, and we get critical hitted back. So yeah, very cool. We do finish it off with a Muddy Water, but yeah, we claim the victory, and that's our 5th gym badge. So we are basically high rolling at this point, very close to hitting critical mass. The last section of this game tends to go quite quickly because once you get past Fortree City, it's basically the legendary Pokemon section. It's the last 2 gyms and then you're at the Elite Four. So although it's a bit of surfing, the last section is actually super duper quick. So it's this is probably the last big land section, or second to last big land section, because from Fortree down to the harbor is basically the final big land section, and then you're basically surfing and flying everywhere. But yeah, we go to Wally's parents and they hook us up with surf, which is really cool because we helped out their son, gave him a friend, ruined his life, constantly beat him down, never let him escape the overwhelming oppression of defeat. And we teach surf to Martin. That's his whole point. Remember, Marvin is still just busy training away. We'll also be teaching Martin Dragon Rage at some point, which is pretty cool. And yeah, at this point we're ready to go. We're doing well. We're kind of cruising at this point, if I'm being completely honest. So now there's a couple big things here. So we have Surf, and Surf's really good because it allows us to catch surface Pokemon. So for example, we shouldn't grab Magikarp. We should eventually get a Pelipper through this method, hopefully, and we're going to need the Pelipper for flying. So if we don't get a Pelipper, it's kind of a big issue. And then yeah, Tentacool will be our next one. So yeah, pretty nice stuff, to be honest with you, but it is crucial. Unfortunately, we've been to a lot of these routes, so we're gonna have to hopefully catch one of them a bit later on. Definitely. The second big thing is we will be unlocking the Good Rod at some point here, which is very, very, very crucial towards our progression, because the good rod unlocks obviously a new suite of Pokemon for us to kind of catch, so that's very, very important. We speak to the good old leader of Morville Gym. I guess he's still the leader of Morville Gym, even though I beat him. Watson. And yeah, he asks us to basically go switch off a generator. Not too certain how that helps things out, because generators usually give power. But yeah, he asks us to head to New Morville. Now this would be more intimidating if we weren't rocking Swampert. So if you're rocking, if it was a different game and we're going to the power plant section with an all-water team, usually I'd be quite, let's say nervous. But with Swampert, you don't really have that problem because of Mudshot, because of the ground typing. However, the one issue you do have, obviously, is the chance for them to explode. So there are a couple, of these bad boys, Electrode, that float around. They only really know Self-Destruct, and Self-Destruct is a really crap move because it does a lot of damage and also can take you by surprise. So we generally act quite cautious here, using repels just to kind of remove wild Pokemon. Not that they could tank us, but just to alleviate some of the pain. And then of course as well, we still continue to collect as many items as possible. There's no real reason for us to stick around. If we're running like a rock team or something and we could just farm these units, then yeah, I would probably say let's kind of take a look at it. Let's obviously see what we can do, maybe farm up some EXP. But because this is electricity and we're not getting much out of here, we're not going to sit and farm. We're just going to straight up escape road, head back to Watson and drop him with the goods. So yeah, again, pretty simple stuff. Honestly speaking, the New Morville section, when I was a kid, was kind of a pain, and it's still the same as an adult. It just really feels not like a lot of the power plant sections in the games previously were very interesting. Obviously most of the time they were taken over by Team Rocket or things like that, but yeah, generally speaking, they were better than that. Now of course we finally get across this crevice here, but there's a couple of big things we pick up. So firstly we try to catch another Pokemon, but I forget that I'm like 40 levels higher than it. Set my Pokemon to tackle, thinking that they would just tackle and I would be able to catch the Pokemon afterwards, but I was not. That Pokemon is no longer with us. So we obtain the Good Rod. This is huge. The Good Rod opens up a whole new spectrum of fish. I say fish, a whole new spectrum of Pokemon for us. So very, very crucial pickup item, essentially. So I think like the Good Rod is definitely a really strong kind of upgrade for us, and has a very huge presence, basically in terms of like just understanding, like the ability to get wider access to Pokemon. We do a couple double battles and take on a couple flying trainers at this point, but there are some areas we need to worry about, and I'm going to show you one of them because it is actually quite dangerous for us, and that is some of the tamers. A lot of them are rocking grass Pokemon. That can give us a very big issue, and basically the kind of big issue we face is that a lot of them know Mega Absorb, Mega Drain, Leech Seed, etc. Along the way we meet Steven, who kind of just asks us if we're using only one type of Pokemon, to which we reply no, that would be silly. Why would anyone use only a singular type of Pokemon? What a fool. So yeah, basically, honestly, not too crazy here. For the most part, everything runs pretty smoothly until we come up to the one trainer who, basically almost ends our run, which is pretty scary. It was really weird that it was just a random trainer as well, but yeah, the way that fight went was just terrible. I'm gonna talk through it now, but it was just it was bad. It was like really bad. Obviously I didn't cover myself in glory with how well I was obviously handling the fight, but yeah, that was not so great. But a couple of difficult battles here, and the bug Pokemon are always a bit awkward because they're not necessarily the same as grass types, but they know a lot of similar moves, they know a lot of status effect moves. So yeah, but it's actually by this house, the Berry Master's Hut, where we come across our near-death experience. So this trainer right there, Aroma Lady Violet, she is a public menace to water teams. I don't know what it was, but she just gave my water team a huge run for the money. Very, 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 very devastating. So we'll find, you know, Shroomish easily dispatched, nothing too crazy. And then we came to Breloom. Now Breloom, huge problem. You can see right now we are low. And Breloom just keeps spamming Mega Drain, but the Shroomish also put down Leech Seed. So we are very tight. You're going to see us here get hit by Leech Seed as well. And that's going to stick us down to a beautiful 7 health. Oh my god. So yeah, this was very stressful. Basically, I didn't have a lot of solutions either because I hadn't really looked at my items in a while. Just didn't feel necessary. I wasn't struggling at any point. So what we did here, I'm not really happy with the strategy, but we just spam 8 super potions until he ran out of Mega Absorb. That is essentially the entire game plan that I came up with. So eating tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of product to keep you alive, and then, you know, essentially like we survive and then we're hopefully going to be able to take them out. But it was very stressful. You'll see I basically repeat the process on high speed here because yeah, we're just gaining minimal back, hoping for his moves to run out, and then essentially yeah, healing up and kind of waiting. Once he started to only use headbutts and things like that, pretty much decided that it was time to take him out. And we get lucky as well. We do manage to get, I believe, a crit at this point. I believe it was a crit. Yeah, we get a crit, and that basically changes the entire battle around. No more does he have Mega Drain. Causes me sleepless nights, Mega Drain. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Obviously now has Gloom. Gloom is going to obviously hit us with the Leech Seed. And then she wants to hit us with Acid Spray, but that's fine because we're already paralyzed. And the Pokemon in 3rd gen, you can only have one stats effect at a time. So if you're paralyzed, you can't be poisoned. If you're poisoned, you can't be paralyzed. A very interesting mechanic, I guess it was to save on UI, but yeah, very strange. So anyway, we managed to finally take out Aroma Lady Violet, and things are looking up for us as we start to make our way through to the Weather Institute. So yeah, we need to basically make our way up to the Weather Institute. There's a bit of long grass and all of that here, but honestly speaking, you know, there's nothing too wild along the way. Quite a few trainers for us. A lot of them do have bug Pokemon. A lot of them have normal Pokemon, bird Pokemon. There wasn't anyone that outright had like a full-on grass type team or anything, so for the most part we're just farming some XP, you know, getting Martin some necessary EXP, really just trying to push him, you know, into that higher 20s, which is you know, not necessary, but definitely want to keep him on par with everyone else, because he is currently our only other real second option. We come across some quirky individuals who stole in a whole bunch of Pelipers, or I guess bought them, stole them, caught them, but yeah, for some reason he thought that would allow him to fly if he strapped all the birds to him. I say that's a brilliant idea, so yeah. But we make our way up to the Weather Institute along the way, making sure that we battle as many trainers as possible, because it, you know, is helpful. Again, we're trying really hard to build that EXP threshold with you know, Martin. We're really trying to kind of get him a good kind of baseline of EXP just so we have a good backup, because at this point we're heavily reliant on one Pokemon, and yeah, essentially anything could happen to us. But yeah, so what we do is we rest at the Weather Institute, and then we're basically pretty much good to go. We're going to take on Team Magma. A lot of them have Poochyenas, Zubats, nothing too crazy. Most of the times there are Pokemons that we can handle pretty well. Yeah, we didn't really have any issues handling them before. So yeah, now we're just basically able to clean up though. Because Martin has Surf, he can grab himself some decent EXP as well, which is all really quite good. So it is nice that Martin was able to get some big time kills in and grab himself a little bit of EXP, because we are going to need him to basically be our solid second option. So it's a bit of pressure on him. Obviously it's difficult, especially when you have one very strong Pokemon that you've invested a lot of your time into. It is difficult to kind of facilitate a second and then eventually a third, and then we'll have to build the team. But we need to start now, otherwise we're going to be very behind the curve. We're going to have to do a lot of daycare, training, manipulation, whatever you want to call it, and that's not great, because you do lose a lot. Obviously they auto train, in terms of the TMs and things like that. So yeah, it's just not necessarily so great in terms of like your Pokemon. They also don't get EVs, so that's a little bit of an issue as well. So yeah, it is a little bit of an issue to obviously not get EVs, to kind of be behind on the curve, but it is one of the few ways that you can at least carry up or catch up in terms of raw levels without necessarily having to lose your mind grinding battles. But it is important, and obviously we'll need to stick a second Pokemon in there, of course, to just kind of best handle that situation and double up on the EXP gain. But as of right now, yeah, just not too much of an issue. So we're taking out the good old Team Magma Grunt, but now we are basically going to head directly out of the Weather Satellite District. We get a cast form, but unfortunately we cannot use cast form. The reason being is essentially that cast form, how can I cut a long story short, cast form does not start out as a water Pokemon, so it kind of makes it difficult to use him for an all water run. Like, yes, I understand if we give him Mystic Water, he will create rain and thus in turn become a water Pokemon, but that feels like a big workaround, because then what's stopping me from changing him to a fire type and just kind of like leaving it at that, behind the scenes to help me do stuff or whatever. It just doesn't feel conducive, unfortunately, to the whole Nuzlocke experience. But yeah, May challenges us just before Fortress City, and at first things were going fine. Wasn't anything too crazy. Martin was able to earn some more EXP because obviously we were taking out Numel, which Martin can do in his sleep due to being a water type Pokemon. But that's when things start to get, wow, oh my god. So this has to be the absolute worst thing that could possibly have happened at this stage of the game. Like, I genuinely feel like this is probably the worst thing, like almost I want to say period, in terms of this run that could ever happen, or in any Nuzlocke run. But we lose our starter, and we lose him to such a stupid play by myself. So as you can see, we're taking on Grovyle. We have the rain, which is boosting water damage, so I decided to go with a Muddy Surf. This is fine. I go for the Muddy Surf and he accepts the damage, or he gets hit by it, and then all of a sudden he's relatively low on health. So you know what, we say, okay, cool, we're gonna call it quits. Well, at least so I thought. Instead, he hits me with a Leaf Blade, which does a lot of damage, as you can see. And my thought was, well, I'll finish him off and then move on to the next one, because he's definitely not going to survive another attack. Except I missed, and then he used Leaf Blade. So we are officially down one official starter. It's huge. It was so frustrating because I could have used anything. I could have used tackle. I could have used literally any other ability, and if it hit, he would have been KO'd, and this would be a completely different story. But yeah, pretty big kind of bloop there. Super knockback to our progress. Yeah, it was Kippy. It was Kippy as well, and Kippy. Oh man. It's just, yeah, it's so hard to like. Sorry. It's just so hard to like keep focused. It's gonna be so difficult to recover from this. We'll try in the next episode, but it's just gonna be so difficult, and I just don't know if we can do it. Like, I just realistically don't know if we have the ability to recover and, you know, kind of start again. Basically, it's bad. It's bad. Losing your starter is the absolute worst, or one of the most devastating things that can happen in your Pokemon search. But yeah, that is it from me. Obviously, thanks guys for watching. It's appreciated. Kippy is going to be laid to rest. He served us really well, and yeah, we're just gonna have to try our best. But that's basically gonna be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. As always, take care and stay safe, and bye. Good day and welcome back to another Pokemon video. This time we're in recovery mode. So if you watched the last video, we were left in a pretty bad situation. We have only Martin left. Our latest battle with May basically kind of crippled us. We lost our starter Pokemon through a very poor battle decision as well. And yeah, we're kind of in a very tight spot. Now, we have to recover, and the only real way to recover is to do a couple things. So first thing we have to do is we're going to have to get all the way back down to Morphle Town. We're then going to have to shift off to the daycare, try and pick up our Pokemon that we left in the daycare. We need to find some more Pokemon, but unfortunately in this game we're very low on hybrid water types. So we don't have a lot of good hybrid water types, like at all, basically. I mean, Swampert is incredibly overpowered, but we just don't have the availability to obtain any other ones. So we're pretty much kind of stuck, because Lotad is in Sapphire, it's not in Ruby. So basically, we need to do a couple things. We got to get our way all the way back down to Morphle Town. In doing so, we have to essentially pick up some more Pokemon. We have very few routes that we also haven't really farmed on. For example, this current one that I'm going up, we farmed this one already. We already fished from here. So it's something that's, you know, pretty straightforward. In this process, though, we're going to have to obviously try our best to essentially pick up some additional Pokemon, and also pick up those ones that we have from the daycare. We're also going to then have to like super farm our Pokemon pretty much, which is going to be something pretty important. Like, we're going to have to farm and beef our Pokemon up quite substantially, and the only way to do that is to actually move past Fortree Town and literally move like directly into the next area. Also, in hindsight, I made a mistake. I believe we hadn't actually fished here, because we just ran past the end of the previous episode without realizing that this route was adjacent to the other route. So yeah, a bit of a technicality. I can't remember if we got a Pokemon on this route, but hey. We're then going to move past Fortress City. You can see that obviously we haven't dealt with the Kecleons. What we're going to do here is we're going to get the Devon Scope, and we're actually going to push forward, fighting all the trainers pretty much up to Mount Pyre and the next city, and then we're going to like jump all the way back. So like we're going to, for the lack of a better term, we're going to essentially push forward and make sure that we defeat all the trainers, because the trainers that are between this city and the next are not inherently super duper powerful. They are decent, but they are not super duper powerful. So yeah, we are essentially how can I say, like using the next set of trainers to farm up our Pokemon. A big like tool that we're going to be using is Dragon Rage. Dragon Rage does set damage, does 40 HP damage. It's not a great move in terms of like higher levels, because obviously it only does a set damage amount. So when Pokemon start to have like 200, 300 health, it does substantially less in terms of damage. But the big thing is that at this point it's very good for us. So it's a move that we're going to be using consistently to obtain Pokemon, like, and we'll get victory, grind our Pokemon. It's only got 10 PP, so we're going to have to kind of like Poke Center juggle, use surf where we can, because obviously this is kind of like actually now our motor HM Pokemon, but it is what it is. We're going to make our way back to Morville as well and pick up our daycare Pokemon before we kind of push on. And while we're doing so, there's a couple Pokemon trainers that are due for a fight. So they're kind of like due for a like rematch, so to say. Now in Ruby and Sapphire, you actually can see when they're ready for a rematch, because if you go to the trainer's eyes, you'll see that little shining icon, and that indicates they're ready for a rematch. Their Pokemon will also be stronger than what they were previously. Some trainers actually refresh, in inverted commas, a lot faster than other trainers. So they actually like refresh quite significantly, and they can be used almost to like farm levels. Now we're not necessarily going to do that, but because we're going to be shifting between Morville and the daycare, we are going to be, to a certain extent, juggling it up. So we are going to be catching additional trainers where we can. The triathlon athletes outside the daycare are a prime example of the Pokemon trainers that actually do refresh quite quickly. So while we're doing that, we're also going to pop some more Pokemon back in to the daycare as well, because while we are kind of motoring forward, we are going to be letting them level. So the reason for this is obviously, again, because it makes perfect sense. We can't, without using XP share, which is banned, we cannot use EXP share to level our Pokemon. So what we have to do, in theory, is we have to go and train up 1 or 2 Pokemon at a time, using the daycare as kind of like a fallback for levels. And if we don't place them in the daycare early enough, we're going to miss out on a lot of steps, which is a lot of XP. Remember, 1 step equals to 1 XP for that Pokemon, so it is important. Now, of course, the big important part was getting Marvin that first level, because even though he exceeded Gyarados' level cap, he needed to level up to evolve. And his evolution, super duper crucial, obviously, because it gives us a second Pokemon that can use Dragon Rage. By the way, look at us cutting things close here. And obviously, having 2 Gyaradoses lets us kind of shift them in and out to farm a lot. It also allows us, here's one of those rematches that I was talking about, It also allows us to actually partake in double battles again, which is really crucial. So partaking in those double battles is very crucial. And yeah, you can see me kind of inspecting it like Pokemon trainers, just seeing if they are ready for a rematch. Of course, I could check on the like Pokemon eyes or the trainer eyes, etc. But sometimes it's just easier, especially if you're in an area, to just like kind of, you know, speak to them. It can save you a little bit of time. Now, of course, we move on downwards. We need to get to Mount Pyre, because Mount Pyre is a story situation that's not actually limited by the amount of badges you have and has no roadblock. So Mount Pyre is quite important for us, because we need to get to Mount Pyre so that we can obviously move on. And like, it's extra battles firstly, which is obviously super important. But not only is it extra battles, but it also enables us to push on forward with the story. And as well, Mount Pyre is in between us and another route, so it's going to be another area where we can pick up a Pokemon potentially. Even if we're picking up copies at this point, remember we're still in recovery mode, so we need to recover like as many levels as possible, whilst also recovering actually as many Pokemon as possible. Because now the big thing is without a starter who's been eating up a lot of our EVs, and basically like picking up a lot of our XP, we're basically kind of stuck in a situation where we need to, you know, I want to say where we have to now farm like again. So you're not just resetting your EXP, you're not just like resetting your Pokemon. The Pokemon we have been raised through like shared XP. So they don't have a lot of EVs, they don't have a lot of extended stats. For people who don't know, EVs are effort values. You get them, you know, through the amount of Pokemon you defeat. Certain stats will be increased. Generally speaking, using your starter to defeat most enemies means they're going to have a very generic stat pool, but they do pick up a lot of EVs very quickly. And with the way we now have our team does not have a lot of EVs, and also Gyarados or Martin is our HM Pokemon. So now we're kind of stuck in this position whereby we are basically unable to like catch, the Pokemon we catch aren't going to have the same level of EVs. Now you can see here we're going to do some route juggling. So we're actually in Route 21 when we encountered that Tentacool, and we can shift directly into Route 22, which is really good. And that got really lucky, and we got a level 35 Tentacool, which is huge for two reasons. One, it means it's going to evolve very soon, so one level equals evolution. Not always the best, because like I say, you kind of want EVs and things like that, but for Tentacool it's actually not so bad. And also it gives us a little bit more of a bigger HP pool Pokemon to potentially throw out if we need to. Now Tentacool doesn't really hit any crazy moves, but we do have the move deleter coming up in the next city, and that means we could potentially switch Tentacool to being our HM Pokemon. Not only that, but Tentacool also has the ability to learn Cut, and that's something that's very, very important. Pushing on further, we actually also managed to catch a Pelipper, which is going to be crucial that we get a Pelipper, because he's the only water Pokemon, and I say this very lightly, he's the only water Pokemon, I think, in inverted commas, that can use Fly. And obviously that's, crucial towards navigating the map. Otherwise we're going to be running a lot, but it's also not an issue. Running a lot is not a huge problem compared to what it would be if you were someone, playing the game normally, because we are, like I say, need the steps to level up our Pokemon. So we almost actually need like all of the steps to kick off, so that we can level up our Pokemon. So like it's kind of crucial actually to essentially like have this like level of mobility across the map. Like we every time we don't farm or don't move every time we fly, we're actually missing out on steps. Now, we continue along this way. The Safari Park is only going to open up to us when we have a Pokeblock case, and that's okay. That'll be something we'll address later on. The Safari Park is going to be an area where we are potentially going to get a very crucial Pokemon for us in the form of Psyduck. And Psyduck is very crucial because of a couple of reasons. So he can learn Ice Punch, he can have Psychic abilities, and it's kind of like one of the crucial type, I want to say type combinations that can really help us out. Because so far, a lot of the Pokemon we have, Tentacle is just essentially water poison. It's not too helpful. There's not too many high scale poison moves, although we will be trying to learn Sludge Bomb. We have a Water Dragon in the form of Gyarados, which is more than fine. We will be getting a Water Ice in the form of Dewgong, hopefully, or something along those lines if we can. And then Psyduck is also kind of one of those. Now, obviously, a Water Grass in the form of Lotad would have been really cool, but we can't get that in Sapphire. And obviously, Water Earth would have been really nice with Swampert, but we lost him. We're also picking up an extra Magikarp because he was the first one we got in this route, and he's actually just going to be our sacrifice Pokemon. So we need to heal or do something. He's going in. Yeah, and he's going to sacrifice himself, like, pretty much, wholeheartedly for the team. Which is maybe not the nicest way to treat a Pokemon, but at this stage, like, we have to really take care of the Pokemon we have. And I would say at this point, losing either the Gyarados would probably be a hard reset. Like, we just wouldn't be able to finish. It would just be too difficult, because then you would be relying on Daycare to push another Magikarp. We have a Barbroach, which is fine. It'll become Wimcash. But we just have, it'd be too difficult to recover. Basically, it'd be such a grind. But yeah, so at this point, obviously Cavill gets his extra level finally and evolves, which is really, really awesome. Why is he named Cavill? Because I was thinking of Henry Cavill at the time. Every good tentacle monster should be based on Henry Cavill. But yeah, at this point, we're trying to push some levels across, I would say, our big three. We have Marvin, Martin, and Cavill, which, are all in a decent range. Ideally, of course, Martin and Marvin would both be in the 40s. But at this point, it's like fine. We've recovered quite well. At Mount Pyre, also, we continue our quest to kind of gazump the Team Magma. Here they have the magical orb, so they come and they steal the red orb from the Sky Pillar, which is quite interesting. Like the whole idea that they still really just want to create more landmass, which is an inherently flawed and just like consequentially bad idea, and I just don't understand how they never understood that. But yeah. Luckily for us, we don't have to take on Maxi, which it wouldn't necessarily be a huge problem. He should be like easy enough for us at this level. But the reason why I say luckily enough, we don't need a risk kind of fight at this point. We just need to continue claiming and building up our pool of Pokemon and getting crucial levels to really kind of help push our Pokemon upwards. It's like really, really important at this point that we don't lose anyone else, because losing more Pokemon, just not a good call. Like, just not a great call. Would gimp us severely. So anytime we can avoid a hard fight, like there's May, who really wants to take us out in the town, and we just straight up avoid her. So she's blocking off actually the Pokemon, which we will have to unlock. But we are not going to be taking her on until we learn a hard counter to her, like what I assume will be a Survivor, if I remember correctly. So instead, we hop back and take on the gym in Fortree. Now, this is a scary fight for a couple of reasons. The Altaria is quite strong. Generally speaking, we handle everything okay because we do have dragon types, which is very fortunate. And like I said, at this stage, Dragon Rage is a very strong, move. Dragon Rage is a very, very powerful move. Very strong, has like very good presence at this point because it's set HP. And at this point, the XP or the HP that units have is not intrinsically super high. So it's holistically possible to have Dragon Rage be a strong move. We also used this time period against a Swellow to set up. This was a bad call. The reason why is because Swellow actually himself sets himself up with double team. So now what's happening is he's using Endeavor, which is doing a lot of damage to us, and then he's using double team. And so while we were setting up with a whole bunch of X attacks and X speed and everything, he was setting up with double team. Not a good call by us. I should have taken out the Swellow easily and then pushed on to the next Pokemon rather, and used setup like situations with that Pokemon, because it just would have been better. Pelipper doesn't really do anything, so setting up with Pelipper would have been probably better overall, just in terms of like just generic kind of, you know, I want to say abilities. So it would have been way better to potentially set ourselves up on Pelipper. Obviously not something we can intrinsically do or like retake, but it would have been better. It would have allowed us to set up, and then we actually probably would have just been able to clean sweep, but unfortunately we cannot. So no clean sweeping for us, unfortunately, which is always a bit of a shame. But yeah, it's, you know, it is what it is. We get to the Altaria, and yeah, we make a couple poor decisions here. So Sacrifice goes in, dies instantly. That was always part of the plan. I switched in Winston hoping that she would Earthquake again. Bad call. Should have just switched in Gyarados and done the Dragon's Rage and just ended the battle. Didn't, like, you know, had, I want to say, like a bit of a brain fart moment. Losing Winston is a huge kind of issue because that was our ride, but like I said, mobility helps us a little bit here. But yeah, so that's 4 tree down. We've recovered a little bit, so hopefully we're going to do well going into the next section. I don't believe, I think the last 2 badges, we have the Psychic badge, which we should be okay with, and then we have the Ice badge, which is going to be a bit of a problem. We're going to need to take out May, which is the big issue, and I think this is our last fight against May. So yeah, but that's it from me. Bye. Welcome back to another Pokemon battle. Welcome back to another Pokemon video. This is obviously the continuation of our journey through Pokemon Ruby. So we had a bit of a rough time last time. We lost our Swampert, which, you know, is pretty big. For anyone who doesn't know, it's obviously losing your starter, especially since Swampert has such good type matchups for a lot of like the game, is kind of a big deal. So we're not really too keen to face Mai again, and she's blocking off the Superstore, so we're rather going to leave that, and we're going to go stop Team Magma. We're going to go toward Team Magma. We're going to save Hoenn as a young child, and yeah, we're basically just going to, you know, for lack of a better term, save the world. So yeah, obviously, yeah, we can't catch any Pokemon on this route, which is a bit of a shame, but we will be catching quite a few Pokemon in this episode. We have quite a few new routes that we'll be going across, 224, 225, 226, 227. We also have the Shoal Cave that we're going to be going into. So we have a lot, we have a lot of Pokemon that we're going to be able to get. So first thing we're going to do is we obviously got to go back to Slateport. So the reason being is Captain Stern's finally finished construction of his submarine, and at this point now, Team Magma decided that they're going to hijack it, which is a little bit concerning. Anyone who's seen Red Winter knows what happens when people hijack submarines. But yeah, basically Team Magma ran off with the submarine, which is obviously a big concern, and then we have to go stop them. Fortunately for us though, of course, we are on our way back. We have no flying, so you'll notice that I'm running everywhere, mainly because we still don't have a Pelipper, so we can't fly, which is a slight issue, but we are able to farm a little bit of extra EXP along the way. While we went back to Slateport, I did manage to finally get the Pokeblock case. Could have had it hours ago, but you know, it is what it is. Which allows us to go into the Safari. Now, the Safari is cool because the Safari is going to allow us to guarantee catch one different type of water Pokemon. So, Safari has completely different water Pokemon to the rest of the game world, I believe. And obviously the goal is to now catch something different. Ideally, we catch a Golduck, or a Psyduck, because Golduck or Psyduck, they have psychic abilities. I have no idea if they're in Ruby, I can't remember. But we don't get so lucky we get a Goldeen, which is fine. Seaking also has his usability, but it's just not as great because you see Goldeen and Seaking are a singular type water Pokemon. And to flesh out our roster, we have to get multiple different type Pokemon. So they need to be water and dragon, or water and ice. They need to be different kinds of Pokemon. They can't just be a whole bunch of like singular type water Pokemon. So we need to have multiple variant types. So they obviously don't really give us a great option when you just get a Goldeen, because Goldeen's got no real secondary type. So we're going to Team Magma's hideout. This passage, or this section I guess, of the game is pretty much going to be largely wrapped up in puzzles. So like a lot of puzzles in this section. I know if you do the Trap Master's house, you have like a lot of puzzles you can do throughout the game, but they really backload this section with like a ton of puzzles. So they really backload this section of the game with a lot of puzzles. You get the teleporting puzzles here. Then the next section against Team Magma is like a whole bunch of rock puzzles, strength puzzles, push puzzles, movement puzzles. Like, it's just a very backloaded section with puzzles, which isn't bad. It's just a bit, like, why didn't they have these a bit more throughout? Teleporters is a common thing in Pokemon as well. If anyone's played a Pokemon game, they'll know that teleporters are super common pretty much throughout the whole of the game. Teleporters, I think they first appeared in Pokemon Silver and Gold. No, it can't be. I think they first appeared in Pokemon Yellow. You used to have the teleporters in the Team Rocket base. Generally, they're in the enemy's base. Yeah. We don't tend to have any issues really with the enemies in this area, so it's why I haven't shown much of the battles, because a lot of the times we have either type advantage, because we're facing like a Numel or a Camerupt, or at this stage, as I mentioned kind of earlier, Dragon Rage is still a very useful ability due to the fact that Dragon Rage does set damage, and at this stage Pokemon's health isn't so high, so they're still sitting with like the 100s, 110s, 120s in the form of health. So it isn't like impossible, is what I want to say, to defeat a Pokemon with Dragon Rage. So there we go, kind of pointing out all the routes here. I said 224 earlier, but it's 124, 125, 126. Lots of routes that we're going to be able to catch Pokemon in. Also lots of trainers, so we're going to try and pick up as many trainers as we can. they're all water type, so we're pretty much good to go. We can just basically hit them with whatever normal attacks. Water type Pokemon, generally speaking, that are trained by trainers, only have water moves, which is great. We then move on and immediately get a Pelipper, which is a godsend. Considered using the Master Ball. You're going to see us use Master Ball on basically some random Pokemon, just due to the nature of, like, the fact that we can't catch the legendary Pokemon. But yeah, we throw out a Pokeball, catch Wingull, and yeah, basically we're now kind of like sorted for Fly, which is a godsend, because once you get to the water parts, running around is not a viable solution. To kind of solve the problem of him being defeated, we're just never going to use him in battle. He'll be our last resort. Some people will say that's a bit silly. I say, if you ever had to walk anywhere in a Pokemon game for like 25 hours, because yeah, that's not going to be a great time. So we continue to just take out some of the trainers. Realistically speaking, it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, we don't have a lot of issues. They're not doing a lot of damage to us. We're essentially able to handle ourselves quite easily. There's a couple of interesting locations in this section of the game. You've got like the Shard Hunter's house. You also have Palapagalos town, which is a bit further on, which obviously connects to Rayquaza near the end of the game, and the Reggie Trio, who we're not going to be able to get, unfortunately, I think. I don't know if we can get the Reggie Trio before the end of the game. I don't think so, because that would be pretty devastating. I don't think Reggie Ice is part water either, so I don't think we're going to be able to. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to use him anyway, if I remember correctly, because he is just ice. Yeah, he's just ice type. So there's no real reason for us to get the Reggies. We get finally though to Moss Deep City. Moss Deep City is pretty cool actually. We get the Super Rod, which is awesome. And luckily I remembered this before we started fishing here. The Super Rod, really awesome. It's going to give us access to higher level Pokemon, but also different Pokemon. So like Wailmer, which is okay. Wailmer will be, we can get Wailmer to be a very solid setup tank for us. So we're basically going to, what we'll do is we're going to evolve Wailmer, because he is only he is only like, he's just a tank. Like, he turns into Wailord. He's just basically a massive tank. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to use him to like soak up damage, basically, to cut a long story short. He's kind of like the only real, we're gonna, yeah. So we name him Wale, and yeah, basically we're now ready to go. So the big thing with him is we're looking for him to be a bit of a tank, so we can, give him rest. I believe he learns by himself. We can get Water Spout, which is very, very good. Will help us beef everything up with our water moves. So I think Water Spout. I think Water Spouts will be a good move. It's based on our HP, so that's why it's such a good move on Wailord, because it is pretty solid. But it's quite high up in terms of level. I actually don't know if, I can't remember if that's available in this game. But yeah, we'll also be teaching him either that or we'll go full face tank. We can teach him things like Attract, which is very helpful. We can teach him things like Substitute, Sleepy Talk. Yeah, just some pretty good moves, basically, that we can teach him. So we'll definitely be teaching him some good moves, just to obviously kind of get him to be like a really good face tank that can set up maybe some of our other Pokemon, or just, kind of like stop their Pokemon, basically. So we'll have to see where we go, but yeah, there's definitely going to be something that we look into, because it's pretty good. Now we get to Shoal Cave. You'll see me use a repel. The reason being, so we needed to get deeper into the cave because we needed the chance for Spiel to drop. The reason we needed Spiel is an ice type Pokemon, which is great. The thing is, Spiel is like our only solution besides Gyarados to the Dragon Trainer. So Spiel is like our only natural solution as a Pokemon to the Dragon type trainer that pops up. So yeah, pretty hectic, obviously. Walrein is also just a good Pokemon, like just a very solid Pokemon that we can use, who's going to be able to do like a lot of really good stuff. He's got decent special attack. He's kind of like a jack of all trades Pokemon, but he's got decent number of stats, decent HP, just in general a solid Pokemon. Obviously he's weak to fighting rock, grass, electric like all of our other Pokemon, but he's really solid against dragon Pokemon because of the fact that he can learn so many good ice moves. Like we're going to be able to learn Blizzard, Sheer Cold, but that's way too late. Hail, obviously we can use Surf, and then we can still continue to learn Ice Beam, which will teach him. So lots of really good moves that we can kind of set ourselves up with, which we'll need to because he can also learn Earthquake, I believe. So good multi-type Pokemon that's just going to be able to help us out. But yeah, so we defeat the gym. I didn't really talk too much about it because it's actually not the hardest gym. It's the first double battle gym, the only double battle gym, and they only have one round of Pokemon. So even if we got like low, even if we got like low in terms of like our Pokemon, I would have just always switched one out. Realistically, because like there's no need, I want to say, to I mean we have 6, they have 2. It's double battles, so we do good trim AoE. At the moment any of our Pokemon got low, we could just switch them out in their turn, so it wasn't really a major issue. This is what I was talking about with all the puzzles. So you'll see like a lot of puzzles in this section of the game really just occur. Like, I don't know why they backloaded so many puzzles. A lot of them are super simple. You're going to see... Oh yeah, that was really silly of me. But it's a great way to reset. But yeah, you're going to see like a lot of the times puzzles don't take a lot to solve. It's just a bit frustrating because you're dealing obviously with like Zubats or random Pokemon encounters. You have to activate strength every single time that you... want to use it, so that's a little bit of a kind of detrimental aspect to it, because like you're going to activate strength, then you got to move them, then if you leave the room and come back in, you got to activate strength again, which is all just like time delay. So solving the puzzles first time is ideal. Most times you can solve them pretty much first time. Maybe 1 or 2 trial and error periods. I remember them not being too hard as a kid, and they're definitely not that hard now as an adult. Still decent. If you're a puzzle person, you'll be into them. I don't mind puzzles at all. I just think they're a little bit too backloaded for me into the game, just a little bit too overwhelming. So we finally come to Groudon. I don't know how to pronounce it. I've always said it's Groudon, but hey, it's gonna depend on you. And we face Maxie. I believe this is for the final time that we'll face Maxie. So, yeah, Maxie's Pokemon are decent level, but there's no there's no real typings, that I would say are really a big issue for us. It's not like he's got an electric Pokemon. He doesn't have a grass Pokemon. He doesn't have, he just doesn't have a lot. He's not got a lot. In terms of Pokemon, he's got a fire type, so that's pretty simple to do. I think he's got 2 fire types actually. He's got Crobat. So Crobat's a little bit scary. Crobat's got a really good aerial ace. I think it has aerial ace. And Confuser. Confuser is also quite frustrating. He's got Swagger. He's got Confusion. Can cause some issues. The wing attack does a little bit of damage. You can kind of see that here, but it's not anything too crazy. Oh yeah, he's got an air cutter. So yeah, you can see we're just kind of trimming him down, switching Pokemon, which is more than fine. And just kind of like, yeah, you know, basically like juggling Pokemon against him, because he didn't have enough Pokemon that could really give us a huge issue. Maxie is just not that difficult to fight. But so Maxie comes, we defeat him, he activates the blue orb anyway, which always kind of like, why did we fight him then? Just interesting to me. And he brings about the doom and destruction of the planet. Groudon's super pissed. I don't know where Kyogre is in this game. It's one thing I've always liked about the joint games. They just kind of make more sense from a holistic story point of view. But hey, it is what it is. So yeah, there you go. You got Archie, Maxie. There's a huge, terrible fire. The world's on fire. How about yours? That's where I like it, and I'll never get bored. So yeah, essentially it's pretty straightforward. After this, we then get a visit from Steve. Good old Steve, you know, always messing in our business. Steve swings by and he's like, "Hey man, listen, you gotta go to this. You gotta go to Sutopolis, which I think is basically supposed to be like Greece. It's a very lovely Mediterranean city. So here, so with diving, it's a bit difficult in terms of a Nuzlocke, because obviously diving, but then all diving areas are called underwater, and every route has a diving area. So does it count as underwater one, you know, like 1 to 4, underwater 1 to 6? For the sake of the video, I did it that the underwater area is all the same. So if I catch a Pokemon here, that Pokemon is functionally the Pokemon that we get from underwater diving. And we get a Chinchou. That's actually not bad. So Chinchou is another dual type Pokemon, which is really good. We could have got a Clamperl, which also would have been okay. I think that becomes another dragon type Pokemon. But yeah, Chinchou, Water Electric, which is going to be very helpful. So Water Electric, pretty decent. It, you know, turns into Lantern. It's not the strongest Pokemon, like overall. It's not like the craziest Pokemon. It's not super duper powerful or anything, but you know, decent. Like pretty decent. The dual typing is going to help us out a little bit, especially when we get to the fight against the Ice type trainer at the Elite Four. So that's also going to be able to help us out quite a bit. We might train it, might even help us out with the Sky, and I've completely forgotten his name. We just met him, but yeah, we're basically going to Wallace. Thank you. We're basically just going to, you know, kind of probably train him up for that. Now, here, still don't have a Pokemon that can use Flash. I think Chinchou can actually use Flash, which is going to be great going forward, especially for the final cave. So that's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, so basically we're now able to use this Pokemon. So that's going to help us out with HMs. We then take on Groudon. Honestly speaking, just should have been super straightforward. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, this is so frustrating. I don't know why we had to lose. So we're gonna go through something terrible here. We're gonna lose Martin, our strongest Pokemon again. So we have effectively lost our strongest Pokemon. I think like in the last like 2 videos. So this here was very irritating because we got fire blasted after he got put into the red zone. He had like 2 buffs going on from like obviously his sunny day, and like it was just very frustrating because he got a burn. Now the burn chance is decent, but it's not super high. So getting the burn and then us being knocked out from it, so frustrating. But yeah, so we lose Martin. I think that's our 5th loss of this Nuzlocke. And yeah, now we're basically we're gonna have to prep for Wallace. That'll be the second to last episode. We're gonna do a lot of prep. That's it from me. Bye. G'day and welcome back to another Pokemon Nuzlocke video. This is probably our second to last video, and yeah, we're starting off obviously beaten Gruden, really cool, yeah, great, but here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, okay, we 100% have to grind. Now, a lot of people don't tend to understand this, but the big issue with Nuzlocke is two things. One, obviously you lose Pokemon that you've invested time into, that have gained EVs, that you've potentially used items or TMs on. But secondly, Pokemon games before you beat the Elite Four have very finite sources of EXP. The games only have so many trainers. Chances are you've probably beaten every single trainer on your way to get to where you are. Most players don't skip trainers, it just doesn't happen. Obviously, naturally, people are inclined to kind of sink their EXP into their starter, who we lost. So yeah, and grinding wild Pokemon is such an ineffective EXP gain, but we're going to have to do a lot of that. So there's going to be a lot of cut footage of that. We'll be doing it, and I'll try and show you or kind of, I don't know, talk through it, but we're going to be doing a lot of grinding. So before we even take on Wallace, we're going to first grind the oceans. So very simply put, we're catching whatever Pokemon we can now. We only have I think 3 routes left that we can realistically catch a Pokemon on quite easily. So that's important. The reason being is we need backup Pokemon should we decide to attempt the Elite Four again if we fail. Although I think, to be honest, if I fail the Elite Four, yeah, I'm not doing it again. But yeah, so the big thing is you get this last EXP. So all the Pokemon we've lost, the Trents, the Travises, the Kippies, all of these Pokemon, not so much the ones we didn't invest time into or that just kind of like the sacrifice, he wasn't sunk EXP. But the thing is all of these Pokemon kind of like lose the EXP that we've gained for them. And this kind of sucks in a lot of ways because we then tend to lose out a lot on the EXP we could have had. So to cut a long story short, we're losing sources of EXP, and because we're losing those sources of EXP, we're now starting to kind of struggle actually when it comes down to grinding, being able to have enough EXP to get our Pokemon to the level they need to be. So it's important in a lot of ways, and losing so many Pokemon, especially losing our starter, lost us a lot of net EXP, which is going to be basically all having to be found through grinding. So we can't get it in any other source. We basically are just going to have to grind and grind and grind and grind. But yeah, so it's okay. You can see obviously we're pushing on, so we're going to Palapagos town. We're going to be pushing through quite a few areas to obviously get our hands on whatever EXP we can, facing whatever trainers we can, trying to make our way through against those trainers, trying to improve our Pokemon, try and grab rare candies. We're going to be fighting every wild Pokemon we come across, and we're going to be flying back to cities, making sure that we grab ourselves some healing, we visit Pokemart, and yeah, we're also trying to get money because we're going to need items for the Elite Four. 100% we're going to need items for the Elite Four. So yeah, there's just a lot that we need to do, and it's not that we can't do it, it's just that it is difficult with one typing. So yeah, it is something we're gonna have to do, but we do manage to grind enough, or at least a little bit. We're gonna have to grind basically every Pokemon, not into the 50s, that would be insane to do that before taking on the Elite Four. But we're gonna try and grind every Pokemon at least into the 40s. We need them to realistically take a hit. Now that Marvin is definitely our go-to Pokemon, them being able to take a hit is kind of like the minimum thing that they need to do. So if they can take a hit, then basically we're good to go. So long as they don't instantly die, obviously they could still instantly die to like crits or something, but as long as we get the ability to survive, so that we can potentially front load or heal our front dealing unit, then I think we'll be okay. Obviously, it's not the only solution. Hopefully they can partake and provide. But yeah, so one of the ways we're going to be grinding EXP is fighting older trainers, or trainers we fought before. And one of the best ways to do that is actually these interviewers. So the interviewers spawn in like 3 very specific routes, and you face them every single time, and they're a double battle every single time. So obviously the big benefit here is you're essentially doubling your XP because you're facing them with 2 Pokemon. Obviously they're giving you 2 Pokemon. So this was one of the main methods I used to kind of gain EXP, especially for like a lot of my substitute Pokemon or my like backup Pokemon. This was like kind of like the #1 method I had for grinding them. So that was definitely very important. I went and visited the move tutor, but honestly speaking, there was nothing that I could get on any of my Pokemon that kind of made me like really feel, feel like it was worth it. It was okay, a lot of the stuff, but there wasn't anything that felt like it was going to change my life. Like it was going to change how like my battles went. There was no secret ability that was going to all of a sudden just explain away my pain or be like so useful that I just couldn't live without it. So yeah, that was a little bit of a shame, but I mean, it is what it is. Like you can't really do anything. You can't really do anything about that. So yeah, but ultimately at the end of the day, the main kind of premise I want to establish here is that we're grinding. You can see like we got a lot of levels, and then we went back and we fought Mai, and the reason we fought Mai is because we need access to the superstore. Need access to the superstore because obviously we need to be able to buy the TMs from there, which is obviously super important. So that was something that had to be done, and yeah, just like a lot of grinding. Just there was also additional EXP. You can see me, I'm using this Numo to just beef up my Pokemon, and you're going to see this strategy in full effect during the Elite Four. There are certain Pokemon in certain fights in the Elite Four and in general that do not do necessarily a lot. So they don't do a lot of damage to us, or they don't have any significant move sets or anything like that. So basically we are going to use them to just batter them. So we're just literally going to, I don't want to say beat them up, but yeah, basically we're going to instill discipline in them by let's just say using them to beef ourselves up, to roid ourselves up basically. And by doing so, we're going to be able to pretty much effectively take out most trainers. It's not necessarily the most honorable strat, but at this point as well, you got to remember, we've been doing this Nuzlocke for a very long time. Like even with the speed boost from the emulator, a lot of the grinding is just not going along. It's still like a 15-20 hour experience. I'm not gonna lie, it's not long. I mean, it's enjoyable actually. I really enjoy Pokemon games, so it's not that big an issue to me, but it's just very interesting because of obviously all of the extra grinding you have to do to try and get EXP, to try and stay ahead of the curve, and you've lost your Pokemon, and usually that wouldn't exist. Like, you would just have your starter, and your starter would become overpowered, and then you'd catch the legendary, and you'd have 2 overpowered Pokemon, and yeah, you just wouldn't really have any major issues. So to kind of like do a Nuzlocke is a very different kind of grind, very different kind of speed, or way of playing the game, and it's part of the reason why I think players like it so much, because it's such a change from like the pace of like a normal Pokemon game. And I think that's something that is really enjoyable, or at least I find is probably one of the most enjoyable aspects of a Nuzlocke, is that aspect of like you're going to have to play Nuzlockes differently to other Pokemon games. I don't usually use items in other Pokemon games, or like traditionally before when I used to play Pokemon, I never used an item. I just let my starter do all the work. So it was a very interesting, it's always an interesting change up. So if you're someone who's played Pokemon the same way for 20 years, give it a try. So we finally get ready to take on the gym, but here's the thing, we're going to take on all of the trainers. So we make sure we go to the final area, but we're going to make sure that we also take on every single trainer. And the reason being is, of course, EXP. So EXP, obviously super duper important overall to have good sources of EXP, and I think it is something that you have to get. So we have to grind out, we have to get that EXP, we have to farm it up, because we need it, otherwise we're not going to have the success ultimately against the Elite Four. So this is just something we're going to have to do. But yeah, so obviously we finally take on the gym leader. Water type Pokemon, so it's not really a major issue for us because we don't have any huge problems. Wishcash is a bit of an issue. He has Earthquake, which can cause some problems, but he chooses not to use it, which is very thankful for us. And then from there we've got Thunderbolt, and Thunderbolt's going to help us out a lot. Why did you teach your Gyarados Thunderbolt? You're going to see Thunderbolt basically be a very helpful move for Gyarados to know, not only for this section but also for later sections. So like for the Elite Four, the Thunderbolt's going to come in handy. The reason being is simply it's a decent-ish damage move with decent PP of 15, but it also has the ability to paralyze. So it's kind of doing a lot for us as Pokemon trainers, I guess. And yeah, I'm not saying it's the best move in the game, but it's really helpful because of that fact. Because it's good damage, because it's got the ability to paralyze, because it can do so much. It's in effect a very good, very effective move. So yeah, beyond that, once we defeat the gym, once we beat Wallace, it's now time to learn Waterfall and to obviously make our way over to Victory Road. So yeah, obviously now we want to make our way to Victory Road. We need Waterfall. In Victory Road, we are going to grind. So Victory Road, we are going to grind. We are going to step out and occasionally use my method of fighting the 2 interviewers. But Victory Road, we are going to grind. Victory Road has a ton of trainers. It has a ton of Pokemon that are a decent level 40, level 38, level 36. And the evolved forms of these Pokemon we can defeat most times with 1 or 2 hits. And one of the main things is the ability to beat them in 1 or 2 hits, but they also give like 900 EXP, which isn't going to be huge for Marvin so much, but it is going to be huge for every other Pokemon we have. So essentially what we will be doing is, for the most part, basically using this section of the game to farm our final bits of EXP for the like final step against the Elite Four. So we're going to grind. A lot of it is going to be off screen because it is not an enjoyable grind. It is a wild Pokemon grind. So it's going to be wild Pokemon until I run out of PP. Then I'm going to be exiting and I'll be leaving, obviously, to then go to the like trainers, the interviewers, and then I'll be flying back. So it'll be like in a giant big circuit thing almost. And basically it'll be an excuse for me to kind of just, yeah, do a big old circle of training. And it's not going to be great. We're going to mainly be working super hard to get a lot of the other Pokemon up into the 40s. So it's not going to be a process to level up Marvin so much, although Marvin will gain levels naturally because we're going to be doing the switch out method, because remember, we can't use EXP share in a Nuzlocke, or at least in my Nuzlocke. So yeah, we're going to have to be switching in and out until they get to the point where they can start to take out 1 or 2 Pokemon on their own, then continue the switching out method. So yeah, I will be also using the daycare for a couple levels as well, switching the Pokemon in and out of the daycare wherever possible to try and not only get some free XP on them, but also just, yeah, basically get some free XP, which is, you know, again, it is what it is, but sometimes, you know, you really have to, you know, do these kind of things, because otherwise you are just going to end up being super duper underleveled. Like I said, especially earlier on, talking about lost EXP, because we lost so much EXP, it's just something we're going to have to do. So you can see here on the screen, we've got all the evolutions popping off. Wale is evolving, Spence is evolving. Spence is probably going to be our second most valuable Pokemon, with a decent special attack and the ability to know Earthquake and Blizzard. He is going to come in clutch during some fights, and Wale also should be pretty useful because of his tankiness. So a lot of health on him, not so much a lot of defense, but a lot of health, which is great. Chinchin's probably going to just be a sacrificial lamb, low-key, low-key, high-key. Chinchin is probably just going to be a sacrificial lamb, because like there's no outward need for him. I think the Ice Trainer has a couple water Pokemon, but Gyarados is probably, well, Spence and Marvin are probably going to take them out, so that's going to be our main thing. But yeah, we end everything off with our final fight against Wally, but because we've been on that grind like the kings that we are, he's not that difficult. Also, realistically, he doesn't pose a huge threat. So he's got mainly Psychic type Pokemon. This Altaria isn't a huge problem, at least not overall. Obviously you can kind of see there, like, okay, Thunderbolt, okay, cool. The Magneton's a bit of an issue, but Spence knows Earthquake, which is obviously going to be super duper helpful. And yeah, that's basically everything done. Ready to take on the Elite Four, doing everything pretty well, and honestly speaking, it was a good run. Like, I think we're ready to take on the Elite Four, and yeah, we'll have to get some items and prep. We'll definitely need to get some X speeds and everything, but yeah, definitely going to be ready to take things on and to hopefully get success. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this section, and see you very, very soon. Good day, this is it. It's the final part of the Pokemon journey. We are going to be taking on the Elite Four. This is our team. We can't grind levels anymore. I will lose my mind if I have to grind any more levels. We've got these guys all ready to go. We've got a ton of items. We've got Paralyze Heals, X Defense, Guard Specs, Thunderstones, Hyper Potions, X Speed, X Special. So we should be good to go. will be predominantly dependent on Marvin, and basically everyone else is kind of just going to be like a tank. So here we have to be super careful of this Mightyena. So Mightyena can do sand attack, which is kind of a bit of a pain for us. We can't hyper beam him because then that'll leave us moving into the cack turn. Unless we risk it and then try and go for the fire blast. Maybe we'll try. Oh, I got the sand attack anyway. Excellent. Okay, but we still got him. It's only one. So sand attack's really bad because then you miss your low accuracy moves. Yeah, perfect. And missing your low accuracy moves is not great. So what we're going to do is we're now going to X special. Perfect, because Sharpedo doesn't do anything. And then we should be good to just use Thunderbolt. One more. Okay, come on. Here we go, excellent. And he's going to Shift Tree, and then we should be Fire Flash. Okay, dope. So that was a very quick one, because basically he had the potential to really wipe us big time. So I kind of wanted to essentially just get him out the way. Next we have Ghosts. So Phoebe is Ghost type. She opens up with a Dusclops. So here there's a couple bad things that can happen. We can get Cursed, which is not great. We can then get Shadow Balled. There's a lot that can go on. We're going to try and open up with an X special. And of course, he gets to confuse off. Can we get the Thunderbolt? No. Can we get the Thunderbolt? Okay, excellent. Can we get one more? One more. One more. Thank you. Ooh, cuck. Okay, we're going to have to heal. Of course. Okay. Fire Blast. Okay, cool. So yeah, so now that we've got our X special, we should be good. We're going to do one more. We'll use a die hit. And then we're also going to use a Ether to restore Thunderbolt. Shadow Ball is going to do damage, but that's okay. Okay, excellent. Sableye. Sableye, we need to use. We'll use a Hydro Pump. Yeah, perfect. Got a crit. Excellent. Veneta. Double up on Thunderbolt. I think we're gonna heal. Ooh, it's bad. Ooh, it's bad. There we go, perfect. Ow. Ouchies. Okay, cool. And then we got this Dusclops left, and we should be able to Hydro Pump him down. He's going to... So you have to be very careful with Dusclops. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. We're gonna heal as well. Dusclops consumes 2 of your PP per attack. So basically, we have to be a bit careful about what we use here, because if we use all our good moves, if we use all our good moves, with the clutch. So if we lose like too much PP, I mean we've got lots of ethers and all that, but like it's just not great because you can run out, and then we have to use low accuracy moves. We didn't use an X accuracy. So far, so good. We are basically, who are we going into? We're going into the we're gonna need to use an Aether. We're going to go into now the Ice Trainer. Yeah, there we go. We use Alexa. Okay. The Ice Trainer is, yeah, she's gonna cause us some problems. We're going to be relying a little bit on, well, obviously on Marvin, but basically we are relying on, so we're going to get off some X attacks here. We need to get rid of this Lely first. What should we do? You bastard. Okay, cool. So the reason we need to get rid of the Lely, so the Silo can't do too much to us, I believe. I could be entirely wrong. Which is going to allow us, yeah, no, we're fine. Which is going to allow us to double X special. Then we should still be able to full heal. We'll even use a dire hit as well. And then we'll use an X speed. Yeah, okay, so we're good to go. And then we should be able to, yeah, clean house. Dope. So the Silos don't do much, not to us at least. We have obviously quite a lot of resistance to their moves. Wondering if I shouldn't heal. No, fine. So pretty good. I am going to heal here. He knows Earthquake, so this is a very dangerous move. Okay, I can take that. Excellent. So he knows Earthquake. Earthquake would have been like super duper bad for us, but we have managed to pretty much clean house there quite easy. The Walrens obviously quite dangerous, but the Silos, yeah, they obviously just kind of let us build up. So here we are going to switch, and we are going to switch to Spence. So Spence has a lot of our ice moves. I'm not saying he's our best Pokemon for this, but what he does do is basically he's got full-on advantage. So we do. I hate this. Wow. So we're going to need to Hyper Potion up. We got one more. Hit it. Excellent. Yeah, we'll switch to Wale. Should be able to take a hit, and then we will use a Max Ether on Spence on Blizzard. Okay, dope. Let's switch Spence. Should we just go? Should we just see what happens? Ouch. Yeah, he can actually win this. Just kind of like through attrition. I'm gonna give him one. I'll give him the Paralyze heal first. That's huge. Huge. Absolutely massive. Wow. That is insane. Okay. We're gonna switch in. We're switching Cavil. Yeah. Then we'll go with Bubble Beam. Oh my god. Terrible. Oh my god. Ooh. Yeah. Use your full restore, you sicko. What is with all of the... Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay, that was a hell of an experience. Damn it. Okay. Ooh, we're running low on potions. Okay, let's go for a full heal. Crunched. Okay, cool. Blizzard done. Okay, excellent. And now we just need to get rid of the Salamence is very scary. Should we go for Snore? What? Oh. Heal. Yeah, heal. Blizzard. Ooh. Woo. 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 Yay. That was not cool. That was tough. Okay. Let's heal up. How many? We got 5. Wow. We are chewing through these. And let's... What's our moves? He doesn't have any... We should be clean. We're going up against a steel type. We've got full on the hydro pump. We should be good. Maybe let's switch out thunder. Let's maybe switch it out. We don't need it, I don't think. Should we get water pulse? Can we teach Blizzard to Gyarados? Of course we can. Let's teach him Blizzard. Instead of Thunderbolts. Okay, cool. I don't know if that was the right call, but we'll see. We're gonna see now. Right, come on. Steven! Man, this is tense. Okay, this is it. This is the final round. Oh, you bitch. Yeah, oh, shit. Okay, cool. Skarmory's out the way. Claydol. Claydol is ground. I think... Oh, no, yeah, Psychic ground. Shit. Yeah, I'm gonna switch. And let Wale take it. I don't know if he'll survive, but we need to heal up Marvin. I'd rather do that than risk... Ooh. Tempted to throw out Cav. No, we'll throw out Marvin. Hydro pump. Oh, what? Okay, we're gonna need to. This is it. We're gonna beef. We're beefing. Okay, we'll do this. Excellent. Lots. We're going full. We're beefing hard. We're gonna X speed as well. Yeah, this is it. He's failing out. Get pumped. Accuracy is up. Speed is up, baby. We're going in hard. Alright. 5 lost. Oh, we're gonna clean house now. Melda. What are you? Hey, Blizzard? Oh, it didn't work so well. Shit. Yeah, no, we're gonna so Chin. Ooh, he took the hit. King. No. Yeah. We need a max elixir. We're gonna get. Okay, cool. Ooh, Gil. Sorry, man. Ooh, no ways, dude. Ooh, crazily. Okay, here we need to use Blizzard. It has to be Blizzard. Ooh, no, it's not. Oh, they all use freaking. Oh, there we go. Aggron, Steel. We should be fine. Hydro pump. Oh, yes. Metagross. Okay, this is it. Metagross. You know what? Actually. That earthquake. Oh, dude. Oh, man. Go Spence. Can you get the snore? Ooh, can you get the... No, it failed. Of course it failed. Can you get the snore? No. Okay. Marvin, it's all up to you, Doug. Oh, why does it not do as much damage as I thought? Ooh, no. Oh. Yo, dude, that was so close. Oh my god. Steven, you took out you killed all our Pokemon, dude. Marvin. Imagine he just mazed like, yeah, now we're gonna battle. That was the, like, yo, I remember when Gary used to do that. When he was back in Pokemon Yellow. Oh my god. Oh, wow. Dude. That was crazy. That was insane. Oh, and that was so stressful as well. Wow. I've got 21 Pokemon. Hey man, listen, I was doing a challenge, man. Me and my water type Pokemon, we got the job done. Whew, that is insane. That was so stressful, man. Wow. That is unbelievable. Here we go. League champions. But it's not just us. It's all the Pokemon that we lost along the way. It's Kippy. Yeah, it's the boys. It's Trent. It's Travis. It's the gang. We couldn't have got here. It was a grind. This is probably... I've done a couple Nuzlockes. This has to be the hardest one that I've done. This has to be the hardest one that I've done. Period. At least right now. This was tough. Especially because we lost our Pokemon at like very bad, moments. It was really crazy. Wow. That's big. So, roll credits, I guess. But yeah. So obviously, yeah, this was the first Nuzlocke. I'll do more Nuzlockes in future, but I'm definitely going to take a break and do a different game series, or at least start one between this and the next Nuzlocke. I'm thinking of either doing Pokemon Ruby, Pokemon Fire Red, or even kicking it back even further old school. And doing like silver or crystal, or maybe heart gold or soul silver. I know those are like some really big ones in terms of like popularity, and I really enjoyed them. So yeah, I don't know if the next Nuzlocke will also be a type 1, or if I'll do another restriction, or if I'll just do a clean Nuzlocke, because yeah, it can be a little bit draining, trying to snag like so many Nuzlockes, especially the type 1s, because you're so limited. And like there you saw at the end, I'm just spamming hyper potions and X attacks, and it's like, it's okay, like it's fine, and you survive by the skin of your teeth on some of them, but it's a little bit, it's actually almost too limiting. Like your only real strategy is to just teach your Pokemon a whole bunch of moves that are of different types, and then just spamming items, and then just kind of throwing down, because you don't have like counters for stuff. Like Shift Tree and that we just basically like got rid of through levels and Fire Blast. Like it wasn't like we could have a level 44 Fire Pokemon to take him on, yeah, but it was fun, a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the series. Thanks for watching, whoever's been watching from the start or joined in halfway, whichever way. We managed to get it done, so that's one down. Awesome. Thanks for watching. Bye.